Here we go in five, four, three, two, one. Hello, I'm Malzilla, and with
Hi.
me is yes,
Radrey.
that's Radrey. Radrey, and we are the Sonic Hosts, and we are recording coast to coast for this special edition, our 21st episode of the Sonic Coast to Coast, Coast to Coast podcast. Uh, a little thing called Sonic Movie 3 came out. So we're here to talk about that. Isn't that right, Radri?
I hope so. I mean, I had a good time
Yeah,
watching it, I think.
I get it. I watch it. But since this is a special occasion, we are not alone. Making her triumphant return to the podcast is our one and only friend, Chauvel.
Hey! Hello,
Welcome
everyone.
back.
Pretty psyched to talk about this movie.
Awesome. And also making his Sonic Coast to Coast debut, the one and only Jonathan Dobbs, aka Ink Pants, aka a couple other names I remember from the internet that I forgot. But Dobbs, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
I apologize for everything I'm going to be saying tonight.
Never apologize. Admit
I was
nothing.
gonna say,
Why?
I apologize for nothing. Whatever I say tonight, I apologize for nothing. You can quote me on that.
Well,
Yell
Dobbs,
at me on Twitter, which I'm hardly on anymore. You can just.
I mean, he really
Same.
is.
Same.
Well, Dobbs, since you are new and our listeners probably are familiar with your work, give them a little rundown who you are and how you got dragged into the bottomless pit that is Sonic the Hedgehog.
Not so much dragged, but jumped headfirst into the deep, dark pit. Hi, my name is Jonathan Dobbs. I am a colorist and flatter. I have been doing art since I was a kid, and really kind of like playing Sonic the Hedgehog since 1993. That's really kind of like what me into artwork. My parents were not very rich. They didn't really have very much at all, but they somehow managed to shell out enough money for like a Genesis when I was a kid. And they got me Sonic, and I got hooked on that, and was very, very excited when I found out that there were also cartoons based on this Blue Hedgehog. And then even more excited when I found out there were comics based on the cartoons based on the game. And pretty much, yeah, that's from there on. I just got hooked, and I've loved Sonic ever since. And the best thing about it, in my opinion, is the community that is behind all of this. And yeah, I owe my career, honestly, in both video games and comics to Sonic the Hedgehog. So he is very near and dear to my heart. And yeah, just happy to every day see what is coming down from both officially and through the fandom, and happy to be here talking to you about it.
We're happy to have you. I know we've been trying to get this going for a while, but schedules are busy, so we're happy to have you. So with all our introductions done, let's dive into our review. So the first part is going to be kind of non-spoilery. We're just going to give our initial thoughts, and then after that, we'll go full hog into spoilers for what some may consider absolute cinema, while others consider peak fiction. So, Chauvel, let's start off with you. What did you think about the movie? What did you like? What is your initial rating?
Well, my official or initial, I should say, thought I really enjoyed this movie. I saw the first one. I saw all three in theaters now. I saw the first one and I saw the second one, and I thought those were okay. I thought those were good. I wasn't like madly in love with them. I was just more like, you know what? I'm gonna judge this on a level that it's a very goofy, campy film, probably made for a younger targeted audience than me. But let's be real, there's a lot of like Easter eggs and stuff that's made for millennial nerds like myself, and I just enjoyed it. I said, you know what? I give it a solid thumbs up. The third movie, I'm gonna say I enjoy this a lot more than the last two. So it's not like I love it. I'm gonna have to watch it again, but I really really liked it. Performances, of course, Jim Carrey comes in and just like eats up the scene. Like he just takes it away from everyone. But the characters, the human actors for once, did not annoy me as much as the last two movies. In fact, I have to say that the actors, I wrote down the names and I already forgot. Not the general too in it. I forgot her name, but they all look like they were having fun. And I think the great part about it is, like, for a movie like this where you're talking to anthropomorphic animals, yeah, have fun, be campy, go over the top. But there were also a lot of sincere moments, which surprised me with Shadow. I knew it was going to be a very sad backstory. We all know, I don't even think that's a spoiler for Shadow's backstory, but we all know it's going to be very sad. But I didn't notice like how sad it was gonna be. I was actually thought like, oh, this is thought out. This is it was handled better than I thought it would. Predictable how I thought it was gonna be handled, but I'll give them credit for that. So I'm sorry for blabbing on. I know you guys want to say your thoughts too, but I really enjoyed this movie. I think out of the three, this is number one for me.
All right, well, don't apologize for blabbing because that's what we're here for. All right, Dobbs, you're up next. What did you think?
Very similar to Chauvel, actually. So I remember I saw the first film. This was before the world blew up with the pandemic. I was very excited for it, and obviously, kind of like everybody, predicting it to be kind of awful when that first trailer showed up. But then when they were adjusting things, Sonic's design and excitement actually picked up again for it. I was like, oh, this might actually be good. And I kind of went in with no real expectations, and I came away from the first Sonic film smiling. And I'm trying. Sometimes it's hard for me to remember that far back after having two films in addition to think about. But I just remember coming away thinking that the first film was fun. And I don't know if it was just me coping because the film, I was expecting it to be kind of like a train wreck. But I liked the characters. I loved Sonic's design. Ben Schwartz nailed this film version of Sonic, in my opinion. And Jim Carrey was originally I liked Jim Carrey, but I was originally nervous about how he would play Robotnik. And I remember coming away thinking, definitely not the Robotnik I was thinking, but he was very charismatic and very funny, and definitely kind of like helped lift the film up from just being some like very kind of like average kids film. So I came away thinking that was actually great, and this is a good starting point. There's some points I didn't really care about it. Like we can talk about it later, I'm sure, but I wasn't a fan of Tom's backstory. The police sheriff angle just rubbed me the wrong way. But everything else about the film was very, very fun. And the second film felt more focused. I felt that they brought in a lot of more elements from the games. They knew what they were doing a little bit more. And while they were still kind of playing it safe, I had some more stakes. Obviously, Robotnik was retooled to be kind of trending towards what I think everyone kind of like wants from him. And aside from some pacing issues and some unfortunate focus, I think, on some scenes, it was still better than the previous film. And I'm like, okay, now we're rolling. And then the third film blew me away. Just I don't normally rate films like on a scale. Like it's more of just did I enjoy it? Yes. Would I recommend it? Yes. But this film, it's very focused. It's very action packed. And they definitely kind of like don't spend too long on any one scene or on characters that, even if they're fun, that's not really what you're here for. You're here for Sonic. You're here for everything around him. And I came away from this film just so happy, so excited that we live in this world where they got Shadow not just right, but they really excelled with him, I think. They really took his
Yeah.
character from the games and they kind of presented him in a way that, like, obviously it's adapted for a film. It's in a slightly different world, but it's Shadow. That's his backstory. It fits in the world that they've created, and all the characters are responding to him in a way that I think fits. And again, we'll talk about this more later on, I'm sure. But just Keanu Reeves' delivery as Shadow, perfect. The tone for Shadow was consistent throughout the whole film. If there was one thing that I wanted them to get right, it was Shadow's kind of tone, his personality, and his story from start to finish. I have no notes. It is just perfect. So yeah, just wonderful film. Saw it twice. When it comes out on home release, I'm probably going to have it on loop constantly while I draw. Yeah, I loved it.
All right. Yeah, we'll definitely go into Shadow, and I think this is a really unique take on him, and we'll talk definitely more about that. Radrey,
Yes.
amigo, what did you think?
Well, okay. I knew I was in trouble because we just have two glowing reviews of this movie. Um, I'll say this first. I went to I took some little vacation time. I was in Hawaii. I was in Honolulu, right? And I went to go see this on the big screen. One of these big American movie theaters. And I sat down in these huge chairs, and I knew I was in trouble when I was watching the film, and then I had this moment where I was like, I want to check my phone. And I'm like, wait a minute, I shouldn't want to check my phone. I'm watching a Sonic movie, right? And then I started to think, is there something wrong with this movie? Like, I'm enjoying it, but there's certain moments that I felt like weren't working. And there are parts where I enjoyed, but I'm like, is the editing off? Is the pacing weird? Is something strange? And then, so I kind of came out of the theater thinking, that was kind of messy. I'm not sure if I liked that. And so, yeah, I went to go see the film a second time here in Japan because it came out December 27th. Thank God, because, we didn't have to wait 3 months like Sonic 2 when it came out in Japan. But I went to go see it a third time in IMAX 4DX, or 4DX? Is that what they call it? I don't know.
I think it's 4DX.
Okay, yeah, help me out here. Correct me if I get any of this wrong. And so I saw it with like the moving chairs and the flashing lights and the steam and everything they use to turn the film into a greater spectacle than what it is already. And I realized the movie is fine. It's fine. The story is fine. I came to the conclusion I just don't like the story. But that's my thoughts.
I mean, that's fine. I mean, everybody's opinions are valid. Never feel like you're wrong for disliking something if everybody else likes something. I think we all go into these movies wanting something, maybe a little bit different to each other. So if the film isn't going to be able to cater to everyone, so if you go to it and there is aspects to it you like and aspects to it that you dislike, that's fine.
Yeah. And I didn't even get to the parts, the criticisms I have of the movie. So as much as I love to give the glowing review,
Same.
I still have problems.
Yeah, there's things I would.
It's not like I'm just saying as a fan, there's a lot to like, and I know you're a fan too, Sorry, I want to say Riley for some reason.
You can call me whatever you want. Except late for dinner. Yeah.
I think because I was watching a Boondocks clip, but it's just the fact that everyone there are two camps that are saying this is absolute cinema as a joke. Like, it's a good movie, but it's not absolute cinema. And there's another camp this is like, no, this is perfect. It's a great movie, and all I can say is you need to watch more movies. It's a great movie, don't get me wrong, but it's not perfect. It's not without flaws here.
I will say it's probably the best video game movie, but that's still a kind of a low bar.
I guess so. I was to say there's been good video game TV shows, but in terms of movies, yeah, you're probably right. It's probably good, a low bar.
Yeah, I mean, I have reasons for why I don't like the story. I can get into that, but that's when we're getting into spoiler territory. Before we get into that, yeah, well, actually, I do have another thought before we go into like the spoiler, because I think we're gonna have to go into it after we talk about our initial thoughts. Am I right? I don't think there's a way to talk about this movie without going into spoilers. Correct me if I'm wrong.
You're not wrong.
It is like, because it's also very. It's a very predictable script. It's kind of hard not to spoil it. It's more than just good guy beats bad guy. It's more like, if you're even slightly familiar with Sonic Adventure 2
a 23-year-old
Shadow
game.
the Hedgehog or the memes even, then you can probably write the script yourself.
I will say that this film has, I'm not even exaggerating here, I've had a lot of friends and family, including my brother, who are either not Sonic fans or only kind of like tangentially related to people who like Sonic. And they've send me messages in DMs about how their sons or their nephews or their nieces or whatever played Generations and the movie and have come away, and these are young kids coming away loving Shadow and have gotten invested in the Sonic franchise and are now drawing for the very first time in their lives Sonic and Shadow, and the movie is hitting them absolutely perfectly. And I'm not saying like this is great because it's a kids film. I think it is a great kids film that adults can enjoy, and I think
Yes.
that it's the best thing about this is that the new generation of Sonic fans that it's going to bring in, and I'm all for that.
All right. Well,
Me
I'll
too.
finish up my thoughts. I saw it twice. The first time, I enjoyed it. I did had some qualms that I was kind of unsure about. It's like didn't quite know which way to, rend a verdict on. But then I saw a second time, and I found that it reinforced some things that I thought, okay, this is some things they could fix. But I also found myself enjoying it. And to piggyback off what Dobbs said, there were a lot of kids in that theater. They were just having the time of their life. A long-term internet friend of mine from Argentina, she saw it yesterday with her brother and her nephew. She's not a huge Sonic fan. She had a blast. Her nephew had a blast. Her brother had a blast. They saw it in a Spanish dub. And so they were kind of bummed that they didn't get to hear Keanu Reeves' Shadow, but apparently in the Spanish dub, the dub for Shadow is the person who dubs Vegeta. So
Yeah.
win either way for them. So if I were to give this a rating, it's a solid A minus, probably like a 93%. It is, in my opinion, the best of the three, but I think each of them does something special that kind of sets them apart, and not all of the following ones. Like, I think movie one had a lot of really great character work and character dynamic, and especially with the human characters. I think a little bit of that got lost in the second one.
Mm-hmm.
The second one did a really good way of like integrating the lore. Like, I loved that little animated scene of the forging of the Master Emerald by the Echidnas and not Enerjack doing his thing and then getting, knocked out by Old Man Owl. That's a meme. Deep Sonic fans will get that. But then,
Indeed.
and then, obviously into Sonic 3, SA2 is my favorite of the game, so this was a pretty damn good retelling adaptation inspired by. But there are some things, and not to get too deep into spoilers, but there are some lore things as like a deep Sonic sicko that just have my brain trying to figure out, like, well, how does this work? And Chauvel and I have talked about this, and we're definitely going to get into this later. This brought out one of the worst things in a fan: power scaling. My brain was in overload trying to power scale what was going on with these
as a
guys.
fan of a huge fan, anyone who knows all the other names I go by, but as a huge Dragon Ball fan, the one thing I hate is power scaling conversations. And I'm sitting in the theater and I'm doing exactly that. I'm just thinking like, okay, so how strong is this character compared? If he's getting hit like this, then how much damage can it was so bad. Like, not bad like in the movie was bad. I'm talking about like, oh no, I'm doing the very thing I hate.
Brought out a dark side of us.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking the dark side story. Well, with all kind of our initial thoughts, let's go full hog, full spoilers.
Well, actually, before we go into that, I want to have some few thoughts before we go into that. Does anybody else have thoughts before we go into spoilers?
I think
random thoughts that does not include spoilers.
Yes.
Let me see.
Because one thing I wanted to bring up was theater. Like, when you saw this in the theater, what were the audience like? How did they react to
I
it?
wanted to mention that. I went early, not an early screening, but I just went. It was out released everywhere on the 20th in the U.S. I saw it on the 19th on a Thursday, 5 p.m. The theater is full of millennials. Like, I'm not gonna kid. I guess because like school wasn't out until either that day or on Friday. school was definitely going to be out. So I'm guessing there were some kids in the theater, but I'm seeing, and I'm sitting next to nothing but people my age watching this. I guess they want to see it before the holiday rush. Totally agree. I did the same thing. And I thought like the theater there were people who probably enjoyed it more than I did. There was one line, and we'll get to that in spoiler, that made my eyes roll so hard, but everyone else ate it up. But that's just me. Yeah.
For me, it
Actually,
was I'm actually kind of the. I always get to the movies nowadays. Typically, at a it's a local theater. It has fewer seats. They're all kind of like their own separate pods. It's like you've got walls around, chairs of two. So you have like two chairs and a table between you, so that you can go with your your partner or whatever, or
Mm-hmm.
friends, and you're kind of like separated a little bit. And it was like that before the pandemic, but it's perfect for a pandemic world where it's like I want to go to the movies, but I want to make sure that I'm safe. The downside is obviously it's not like a jam-packed theater with a few hundred seats or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It tends to be a lot more low key. Great food though. But I've seen all three Sonic movies at this theater, and it's always empty. We're just the only ones in there. We went with some friends, so that was nice. And it was a good. They mostly go with me because they're not Sonic fans, but we're friends. They
Aw.
they support me in my Sonic fandom, so they go with me. And my friend Scott actually, I think it was the previous film. So the reason he goes with me is just so he can hear me screaming in my seat. Um, and but I think back to pre-COVID era where my wife and I would go to a film, and it would be like a Marvel movie or whatever, or a Transformers movie, and the line would be like out of the cinema through the mall, and fans would be talking about the film. You'd be all jazzed up because you'd be hearing them nerding out, and you're nerding out, and everyone's screaming in the cinema, and you just haven't gotten that with Sonic, and it's not to do with the film, but more to do with just the era that I'm in, the time period that we're in, where everyone's a bit more cautious. It just hasn't lined up. So unfortunately, I didn't get that experience of like going with a full throng of Sonic fans, and I would have loved
Oh,
that so
even though the
much. But
theater was full, we still had like the large seats, the reclining chairs, and I want to say
yeah,
full. The first row where it's up to the screen is not occupied,
yeah.
but it was definitely filled with people my age, reclining chairs and all. But I wouldn't say they were like cheering every time like Crush 40 came on or
Yeah.
something. That would have been really like if I saw it in a theater with the kids in front of us actually.
Hmm.
And when we get the spoiler, I'll get into that and their reaction, because when I go to these movies that are generally targeted towards a younger audience, I'm always so curious about how they feel about it, because
Hmm.
like it's like I know like I'm not the target audience, so it's kind of
Yeah.
interesting to see how they react. Are they bored? Are they looking at their phones, etc.?
I think it's a
And
great.
they were into it. They were into it, I
Hmm.
would say.
I think it's a great point too, because it's just real quick before we continue. I know that it's important for every Sonic fan, especially older ones, to have something, and for them to not be like left by the wayside. Like I've been a Sonic fan for 30 plus years, and it's nice when the
Same.
things that I loved are represented in some way. But these movies, you really kind of have to, I think, buy into the world that they've built to really enjoy them. I think you can enjoy them as a passive Sonic fan, even if you're not really a big fan of the series. There's something there to enjoy, but I think you're going to get the most out of it if it's a world that you really enjoy. And I think these movies are made, and I mentioned this before, not just for old Sonic fans, because there is plenty in there for us to like, but
Hmm.
for a new generation of Sonic fans, and for young kids and their parents to take them and continue. And I think it's easy to want the movies to be the movies that you want, but I think they really are the movies that they really need to be for. I think is for as many people to enjoy it as possible. And I mentioned this before, and maybe it's a bit of a sidetrack, but I'm just so excited to see new generations of kids and younger people kind of like get into this fandom through these films, and they're gonna find the games, and they're gonna find the world that we know and have known for years. They're gonna find it from having gone to these films and playing like some of the more recent games. So
Yeah.
they will come around. They'll come around and they'll maybe go back and dig up Sonic Adventure 2 or whatever. But this is a great entry point, I think, for them. It's very accessible. Go with a family, and yeah, that's just my thoughts.
yeah, this very much is the what Sonic X was for kind of the later millennials or what Sad AM and Archie and the Genesis games were us
Yeah.
older,
I truly
millennials.
believe that. Yeah.
This
I think
is
so
very much
too.
the
It's
gateway drug.
kind of like I'm pretty sure every one of us had like that thing when we were a kid that was definitely before our time. That we became kind of, I wouldn't say super obsessed, but obsessed with a point that we went back to see older things of it. Like for me, that was like certain horror franchises. I'm also a horror fan. And I would find something like, okay, Jason is really cool or Michael Myers is really cool, but I'm watching the current stuff. Like my introduction to Carrie was Carrie 2. And I was like, oh, this is young me. This is so
That
cool.
was-
She gets to move things with her mind. That's so wicked. And I'll go back and watch like earlier films that showed up. And I was like, oh, this is so interesting. This is really cool. So I kind of feel that's how they're going to do with the generation that are into Sonic. It could happen either way. They could either like it for the moment and move on to another franchise, or they might go in a deep dive and watch a 10-hour YouTube video discussing Archie Sonic for the upteen time.
Exactly.
We need to get them on those videos and watch our Sad AM review videos, kids.
Yes.
You'll enjoy them.
Yeah, we're very thorough when it comes to those Sad AM reviews. Very
I should really get around to watching them.
Yeah. So if you enjoyed Sad AM, you will love our reviews. Or I hope you will. If you don't, please let us know what we could improve,
Exactly.
what we could do better.
We'll be starting season 2 shortly.
Yeah, this year.
Looking forward to it.
I wanted to point out, my theater, like when I went to Honolulu, right? I went Christmas Day, so of course nobody's gonna be there. But there was like one whole row of just kids, and they were cheering for, and they're saying Sonic's name and everything. And, of course, they clapped at the end, which is kind of an interesting experience for my girlfriend because, in East Asia, when people watch movies here, they don't really clap and they don't really react and they don't really laugh at any of the scenes, which makes everything very awkward, right? But, and I guess another thing, too, is that everybody has assigned seats and everybody stays during the credits, no matter what. Nobody, unless they're
Really?
unless it's like a Western audience. Then
I am out for end credits. I only made an exception for this movie.
Oh, because you heard that there was something at the end?
Yeah, I heard it's like there's an end credit sequence. You better not miss it. It's like it better be worth my time because I stopped doing that after Endgame.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so that's just sort of the reaction. And I want to point out that the funniest thing happened to a friend of mine who I went, he's like a friend of a friend who I went to college with. A college friend who has a friend. That's who it is. His son is a Sonic fan, and they went to go see it here in Tokyo because they wasn't playing, and I forgot where they live. It's either Kanagawa or something. I forgot where they live. But anyway, and he said the strangest thing was most of the audience were all middle-aged men, like white men, so that were there. There was hardly any kids, which really shocked him. Like, what is the audience for this movie, right?
Aging millennials.
Yep.
100, like at least half the audience is aging millennials. Half the audience is actually for kids. There's no in between. There's no Gen X or Boomers, anything like that.
Yeah,
But frankly, I think it's crazy too because there are so many movies out there that are targeted for families that you can kind of look at them and go, hey, this is for kids. This is for young kids only.
Yeah.
Whereas this is definitely a movie that I am 42, my friends. I am digging this film.
Oh, I'm 37. I love this
same
movie.
Yep.
Okay,
I'm
so
35 and I'm the young.
he's the youngest one here. Yeah. So when I went to the 4DX one, there was also two foreigners that went to the movie as well, like around my age, maybe a little older.
Mhm.
And there was a couple of kids like with their dad, but it was also like middle-aged Japanese men. So I know there was a few women as well that were fans. I saw them go to the I don't know if you know, in Japan they have this huge merch corner for every big film that comes out, any tentpole movie.
Mm-hmm.
And they bought some, Sonic merch as well. And they sold out. I took a picture of it. I should post it on Blue Sky or Twitter. Or
Wow, what were they selling?
There was a lot of, they were selling Shadows inhibitor rings. Like you could buy like.
What?
Yeah, you could buy, they're like 3,000
You mean a
yen.
large bracelet?
Yeah.
I saw the advertisement of those. I wanted those.
No, they were sold out.
I always want a large bracelet. I better go to Etsy and get myself an inhibitor ring.
I think they sold out. So I think this movie was only playing at Toho Cinemas. Like I went over to like Piccadilly, which is another one. And I went to I can't remember the others. A Walled Cinema. They have a couple of like theater chains here in Japan, but Toho Cinema was the only one playing it. And
Which Toho did you go to?
Oh, the one I met you at here, the one right in front of the Acorn building. Maybe you remember that.
Oh, yes. Shinjuku, Godzilla Row. Yes. Yes. I missed that street.
Yeah, so I saw it there, but the thing that was kind of very interesting for me was I think this movie flopped here. I don't think it did very well, but I don't know. I mean, supposedly it's the #1 movie in America or something. I don't know. But everybody seems to be saying there's nobody in my theater, right? But I don't know.
I guess so. The Lion King or Mufasa must be doing really poorly.
We'll get into some box office stuff because I have some numbers. I have some numbers.
Okay.
Got some
spoilery numbers.
Okay.
Okay. I guess one other thing before we dive into the actual story itself. I guess, well, actually, maybe these are kind of spoilers. Let's dive in. Melzilla, take us away.
Let's get into spoilers.
We're going full hog. Welcome to the spoiler zone.
Yeah, anybody who hasn't seen it, you better go turn this off now, unless, I don't know, you don't care.
Go play Sonic Adventure 2, you know.
Yeah, play Sonic Adventure 2, you get the gist.
Or play Sonic Adventure 2 while you're listening to this. That's even better.
You should definitely see the film, though. Go see it.
Go see it.
Go ahead.
Beat Disney.
Yeah, we want more Sonic movies, please.
Yes.
All right. So, if we're going in full hog, this is kind of a 2-part question. What would you say is your favorite part, and what is your least favorite part? Dobbs, go ahead. Lead us off.
I'm tied between any scene with Maria and Shadow and the end fight scenes, because both of them are very powerful in many different ways, and I just love the way that they're shot. For one, I'm sure we'll go into like the character stuff later on specifically, but I was really happy with how they handled Maria and Shadow in this, and I really felt for their dynamic, and I really kind of like believed their relationship. The way that it's shot is just really pretty, and just like the way that Maria is roller skating around and Shadow's being pulled along behind her, just easily one of my favorite moments in the whole film, just because it's just so sweet. Maria feels very believable, and it's just that whole sequence from start to finish. Well, obviously you see it in little pieces, but all of that was just melting my heart the entire time. On the flip side of that, the final fight scenes, and this is actually where some of my biggest pieces of criticism come through, and that's mostly because of the pacing, and the way that some of the shots are kind of like switch back and forth between who they're focusing on. But just the fight scenes alone between Super Shadow and Super Sonic, it's just they weren't lying when they said that they were going all out. Anytime that Tyson Hess said that, like, they really kind of like put their heart into this, and like they weren't kidding. It is so good. When they're punching each other and they're flying across the planet. I know that people. I had seen before the film came out. Before I saw the film, that the people were referring to it as a Dragon Ball film, and they're not kidding. They are not kidding. It is like straight up Dragon Ball at the end there, and it's just, again, beautifully shot. The acting is
feeling justified.
Yeah, no. I when I saw it, it's like I didn't even fucking care about what was happening. I just loved what I was seeing, and seeing like fucking monuments get demolished, and just the color grading, everything about it was just beautifully rendered. Keanu Reeves is at the top of his game as far as his voicing for Shadow goes. And Sonic's development during that sequence was just, I really believed that he was angry, and we hadn't really seen this side of him throughout these 3 films. And again, this dichotomy of like sweet, sentimental, and sincere scenes with Shadow and Maria versus the just adrenaline fueled, like obviously CG heavy, but never in a bad way. Like these fight sequences at the end. and then this beautiful moment where they're on the moon and they're just talking,
Somehow.
followed by like this another incredible action sequence. Both of these scenes highlights the entire film for me, and I'm glad that one was a little bit earlier, so I got to soak up that, and then you have like the payoff at the end of the film. And again, some pacing issues with the fight sequence. In a vacuum, the stuff with Gerald and Robotnik having the fight with the mantis arms in a vacuum, funny. I like it. I think it's very entertaining. Not where I wanted it to be. The film had kind of just amped up, and I am ready to go. I am so excited about what's happening, and it kind of the fight is pretty short before it cuts back, and it's like then you have to sit through this minute of banter and silliness, and again, funny. I laughed. I thought it was entertaining, but it pulled me right out of that moment. And then you go back to it, and there's a little bit more. But even that said, even with those criticisms about the pacing, both those sequences, by far my favorite in the entire film, and my favorite moments in the entire trilogy.
All right. What was your least
Nice.
favorite part?
I didn't really have one, to be honest. I guess if it was anything, it was the gun foyer, where they're just kind of like somehow getting past security by just being sassy. To me, it's just like, all right, we're back to the kind of
The
like
wedding?
silliness, because it's like thankfully very short. And again, this is where the movie excels. There was never a scene that dragged on too long, in my opinion.
Hmm.
None of the characters. I love all the characters, and I love all of I love the whole cast. Even like in the second one and the first one, I love the whole cast. But they focused on some things a little bit too long. This time, it was short, so it didn't. I wasn't sitting in my seat rolling my eyes. And the second time around, I didn't care. I sat through it. Unlike the wedding sequence, like I wasn't bored. I even chuckled. But it is kind of just like it is a little bit going into that kind of like, all right, we're just having characters be sassy. And Gunn is a agency that I think you have to be very careful about how you portray them. I was very worried in the second film with how they were portrayed, because they were very bumbling and very stupid. And I'm like, oh god, how are they going to handle this in the third one? Like, you have to get these right. They have to have an air of maliciousness or kind of like harshness to them. And it never really goes full like that direction in the third one. There is a general overtone that they're kind of bumbling, but it's tamed compared to the second one.
They got
And
the
I
guy
feel-
from Lonely Island in it, so
I know, but at least he's kind of just like a secure, like a guy just sitting down having a few lines. I didn't
Yeah.
realize
Probably filmed that scene after he directed The Flames of Disaster.
Oh god, yeah. But even then, like, it's
Norma.
short and it blends in. I didn't even know who it was until after I saw the film. So
I only know it because I really like the band.
oh yeah, no, it's great. I love it. I have no notes there. But yeah, just to keep it. I know I'm going on for a fair while, but honestly, that's pretty much it. I don't really have any low points in the film. There was never a point where I was like rolling around in my chair thinking, when is this going to end? Like the wedding sequence. So yeah, that's it.
Raji, what did you like most? What did you like least?
well, okay. I guess Chauvel's going next after me. Let's see. There are two moments that I really quite enjoyed that really took a lot away from the movie. The first scene that really was kind of special to me was the scene with there's the part where Shadow destroys was it Shibuya, Shibuya Crossing, and he throws the car and everything. They have that fight sequence, and there's that part where Sonic goes to chase after him, and there's that scene where Tails looks at Sonic's face and he goes, "Whoa, I know that face. No, 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 no." I don't know why, but that back and forth, that little interaction was it kind of really shows you how much of a bud Tails is, and I thought that was really a really cute moment that I thought that really brought their character development together. So that was kind of a really cool moment. The second most really cool moment for me was I saw some people chatting on, I can't remember where it was, but they're saying did they just use a Fleetway reference? Did they just use evil Supersonic, right? Where he uses the Chaos Emeralds for bad or for his own what's the word? he uses it for himself, for like selfish means, right?
Yeah, it might turn you evil. I can't. It's so funny. You can say like, "Oh, it can't be that," but knowing the people behind it, it might as well be.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, wow, they're
I mean,
really
this
going
is
for it.
chock full of Easter eggs, like all 3 movies. So I would not be surprised.
I was thinking, like, are they going to give him the eyes, like in the Fleetway comic? Like, I was kind of crossing my fingers. Of course, it didn't happen.
Me too.
But those are the 2 moments. Like, wow, okay, this kind of feels like the writers and the creators behind the makers of this movie. They're trying to do new things. They're trying to
They
remix.
care about the franchise.
Yeah.
Maybe. I mean, I'll get into that later. But they're kind of remixing it in a way that kind of feels fresh, that felt unique. So those are the 2 big moments that kind of really stuck out for me. In terms of like the negative ones, let me ask people here: has anybody ever seen the 3rd season of Twin Peaks or know of Twin Peaks?
I know of Twin Peaks, but
Years
I
ago.
don't
Years
know
ago.
about the 3rd season.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm a big Twin Peaks fan. Yeah, I watch it religiously. I have all the merchandise, from long ago. So, if you're a big David Lynch fan, you'll know if you watch Twin Peaks season 3, there's tons of scenes where you're looking at it and you're visually kind of like putting together in your mind, like, is this Eraserhead? Is this the Elephant Man?
That movie.
What's that? What's that?
Eraserhead. I remember that film. Jeez.
Okay, yeah. Was Eraserhead? Is this like is this echoing parts from the original Twin Peaks? Is this like you'd think about his entire filmography, like Lost Highway or Mulholland Drive or any of the other movies he's made. And with this Sonic 3, I was watching these scenes with the 2 Eggmen, right? You got both Ivo and Gerald, right? And a lot of, I don't even know what to call this. It's like Jim Carrey-isms or Jim Carrey things. But there are several moments where like I was watching it and I'm like, is this Dumb and Dumber again? Is this or like is this supposed to be a mask callback? Is this, just certain moments where I'm realized I'm not watching, Robotnik on the screen. I'm watching Jim Carrey, right? Like the scenes where like they're both have the VR headsets and they're having those what do you even call that? That
montage together?
Yeah, the
montage,
montage. It was similar to like Dumb and Dumber, right? When he's with that woman he's obsessed with. That I can't remember the name.
I think that was just like a very TV. I say TV, but it is TV too. Very movie trope to do the whole montage of the bonding scene, the father or loved one not being together again, and they have fun times, but it's amped up the cheesiness.
And I think you're gonna get that with Jim Carrey. It's very difficult to watch him in anything and not think of Jim Carrey. I'll watch any of his movies and I'm seeing Jim Carrey having a great time. I don't see his character. I see Jim Carrey having a ball. And this is why I kind of like the 3rd, not to derail from Radley too long, but
no, it's fine.
I think that his Robotnik in here, this is why I like him a lot more than 1 or even 2, because he feels more like he's a little bit more the character, even though it's still very clearly Jim Carrey. Like, compared to the first one, it doesn't feel like him just being Jim Carrey on stage and saying a few things that are like, oh, I could imagine Robotnik saying that. He did feel legitimately more like this is the film's Robotnik. But you're going to get Jim Carrey's charisma and personality is so strong. I don't think you can really avoid that permeating any role that he's in at any point. Not to say that you're wrong or anything. Just I think that that's always going to happen with him. And maybe that's on the directors and the script writers to maybe step in and say, pull back a little bit. But I don't think that's what they want. I think they know this is the sort of thing that kids are going to go absolutely bonkers over. So they're going to let him do what he wants. And honestly, maybe the film's better for it. If it wasn't for Jim Carrey's rubberness and like his comedy, I honestly do believe that these movies would be not as good as they are. Not because the Sonic stuff isn't great, but I think that his Robotnik fits these movies. This world that they've crafted perfectly.
They brought a broader appeal to the broader audience to the films as well.
Mm-hmm.
Very true. Okay, that's the word I'm going to use. Jim Carrey's rubber. That's a good one. Don't take that out of context, people. All right, the rubberness. Excuse me, I misspoke. The rubberness. Yeah, the rubberness of Jim Carrey was definitely in this, and like he'd make certain faces where I'm like, now I'm thinking about Me, Myself, and Irene, or now I'm thinking about Liar, Liar, and I'm like, I don't want to be thinking about this movie. I want to be thinking about Sonic 3, right?
Yeah.
So that was the only thing that kind of really stuck out to me in general, because I kind of felt like these moments in particular, they could have been more lore moments. They could have been moments where like we got more of Shadow, or we got more like, even if like we get, because this version of Gerald is very goofy. Like, 'cause the way he's been portrayed in the games is always very stoic and serious. Whereas, like, sure, you could always argue that, Robotnik's always been this character that's, like, especially, like, the way he's depicted in, like, Adventures of, where he's this larger-than-life, bombastic kind of person, right? But I was kind of a little taken back about how it's like they even like make a joke about it. They're like, it's almost like he's what were the words? Help me out here. Like he said, it's almost like
the same character, two actors in a movie playing the same character. Yeah.
Yes.
But
all with the split screen too. I'm surprised they didn't put the little line in between to make it look slightly fractured.
Well, actually,
If it would have been fucking funny, that would have been great.
Was they had Jim film Ivo scenes, and then they filmed Gerald scenes. So he basically did each scene twice.
I'm honestly impressed with the fact that, despite them being very clearly Jim Carrey, they felt like two different characters. The makeup was really good. I've noticed it in Hollywood. Like, it doesn't matter what your budget is. Often aged makeup looks terrible.
Yeah.
But it looks good. Gerald looks good. And Jim Carrey was clearly doing different expressions for Gerald and Robotnik. Gerald's mouth was always at a different resting place to Ivor. The way that he spoke was very different. So obviously, while they had the same sense of humor, he did a great job in, I think, two different personalities and carrying himself differently. So I'm very glad that he did the extra mile there.
Me too, because I think it worked really well. Especially with the the campiness. So I don't know if Radrey said his least favorite.
Oh no, that was it. Just there was parts like with Jim Carrey that I kind of felt like that could have been more of what Shadow. It could have filled in with Shadow, or even like Gerald lore. I could have just used a little bit more of that. But I guess if they
agree there, yeah.
I guess if you do that, then that's the problem when like you risk of like, critics saying something like, "Oh, this is a movie for the fans," right? It's not a movie made for us, right? So I think maybe that's where they're. I mean, if I were to use another example, like the Five Nights at Freddy's movie that came out, a lot of the reviewers they were kind of criticizing the movie, like saying that this is a movie for the fans because there's parts of it that were just too lore based that like, I think took the critics out of it in general.
I think it was just a bad movie.
Okay, all right, that's fair. I understand. I had one other thing that kind of was like I was underwhelmed or whelmed by, that kind of made me kind of groan a little bit in my seat, where they cut to Wade right in this movie, and I was kind of like excited for seeing Wade. Like, yes, I know this character. He was in the Knuckles show. He had an entire show about him, right? And mind you, I hate to say this, but I think I enjoyed the Knuckles show a little bit more than this. And I mean, I'm not gets a little heat for this.
I haven't. Now you make me want to see the show. I kind of skipped out on it.
No, I totally get why people skip out on it.
Oh yes. My god, you're the only person that has said like, man, if only there was more Wade in this movie.
I think there was the ample amount of wait time. It was.
The show made me like the character. Let me just put it this way. I mean, I didn't enjoy that Knuckles wasn't the center focus of the show, but it did make me like the character.
Here's the thing. I don't dislike Wade. I think Wade's fun. I just think moderation is key with him. I think, especially given the amount of time they gave all the other cast members, his cameo was perfectly timed, and I think the right amount of Wade. I think
it's just like they probably well, that and the runtime probably like, listen, he had his
Yeah.
own show, basically.
This is true. Yeah.
Let's just make him cameo and that's it.
I
He
guess
doesn't need yet another full scene with Knuckles.
right. Well, I guess the thing with that made me feel kind of underwhelmed was they're kind of setting everything up in this film about where the Master Emerald is being kept. Where is it, being guarded? And
Mhm.
of course, they cut to Wade because that's who's currently keeping it, and he's like using it as like a hockey puck, right?
Mhm.
That was actually kind of a fun joke.
I liked it. Yeah, I'm gonna be honest.
And they go through this whole like little, or what is it? Knuckles talks about how it's it's protected by him, and it kind of made me a little underwhelmed when I
Mhm.
realized they never really explained this in the TV show.
Mhm.
We never got that. I mean, I guess you could say this isn't the movie's fault. Maybe it's more the show's fault. But it's just sort of like if you look at these like as Marvel properties, how like every single character has like their own show, and they kind of go into like their own story. We didn't really
Yeah.
get that story. But
I think part of that is probably going to be like the runtime and just how much is happening in this film already. Like, I'm with you. I would love to see more lore, and I like, for example, there's some stuff in the film that I would cut and add more. I would love more Maria. I would love more of that. I would love more of X thing in the film, and I would love to see some seriousness taken with Knuckles and his protection of the Master Emerald. However, given how much is in this film, the way that they've been making these movies, it's like, okay, I'll accept it. I think this is a fun scene. It's quick, and then we'll move on to the rest of what's important. Like, I definitely agree. More would be nice and especially with Knuckles, I didn't mind the Knuckles series in terms of like it's a fun show, but I really dislike it compared to the movie's portrayal of Knuckles.
oh yeah,
And I would
yeah.
absolutely have like killed for the Knuckles series to establish you don't have to do the floating island like Angel Island. If you did, that would be amazing, incredible. Have the Master Emerald be somewhere secure that he's guarding, incredible. And then you could cut in the third film to hit the shrine or something like that, and Sonic takes the Master Emerald from there, and it's a more dramatic moment. But given the context of the films and whatnot, and it's like, all right, I'll accept this Wade joke, and then we'll move on to the stuff that actually matters.
I would have loved if they had built like the Master Emerald Shrine in the
Oh god,
Wachowski backyard.
that actually would be fantastic.
Because in the show, he builds like the Iron Throne and a gladiator ring in the living room. So like, what if he just built it in the backyard?
And like what was the dog's
I
name? Is
would've loved
Ozzy? Like the dog is
Yeah.
guarding the emerald or something like that in their backyard or something like that. He's on guard duty for Knuckles. But yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
There's definitely other things that they could have done with it that might have been quote better. But yeah.
I guess one other thing I wanted to point out is I felt like they could have used more Maria scenes, kind of like a bit more like okay, I'm gonna ask a really gross question. I'm sorry to take it to gross town, but I kind of have to because my girlfriend, like when she was sitting next to me, asked this very question because I know this is a question that Stephen Colbert asked.
I
Ben
know
Schwartz.
exactly what.
So I mean,
Oh,
sorry.
boy.
I'm sorry to take this gross town, but here we are. What exactly is Maria's relationship with Shadow?
He's a friend.
It's just
Sibling.
a friend? Is it like
It's almost like sibling relationship, but they're definitely just friends. I think anybody who tries to be like, oh, it's I saw some people on YouTube talking about this who weren't Sonic fans, who were making jokes about it being kind of like a gross relationship. No, get the fuck out. It's friends who are borderline siblings because they're growing up together. Shadow is a kid essentially, but he's had to grow up and mature faster, despite obviously the 50 years of cryostasis.
Yeah.
He went through shit as when he first arrived on Earth, and he had nothing but shit with all the stuff that they were doing on him and making him do. And here is this young girl who reaches out to him and accepts him for who he is, and she gives him a respite from the torment that he's going through, the respite from this life that he knows that he doesn't know anything. He doesn't know where he's from. He does, like he says in the film, like he doesn't know where he's from. He has no idea what he's there for. He has no purpose. And Maria shows him love, and he shows her that love back in just being together and helping each other. And I honestly think that's as far as it goes. That's as far as it should go. I think if people look into it any deeper and start looking for things to be gross about, that says more about them, I think, than it does
If you're
anybody
looking
else.
for it deeper, just save it for your fan fiction, okay?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Especially since these are kids. These are kid characters.
Right. Well, I mean, there were certain moments where, like, I was watching it and I was thinking, Shadows kind of reminds me of, like, a grumpy cat, right? He's like a real grumpy cat who's just sitting there and, like,
He's a bit of
look
a
how
grumpy cat,
grumpy
yeah.
he is. He's so cute, right? I'm going to become, I'm going to treat him like my pet. Because obviously I don't think that, Maria doesn't really treat him like he's a pet. And
No.
there's the scene where, like, they're looking at the stars and then, like, she holds his hand. And that's when, like, my girlfriend's turned around and looked at me and like, is she interested in him? Like, why is she, like, holding his hand that way? So I
It's
think
a tender moment.
Yeah,
It's a very heartfelt
oh,
moment.
no.
I mean, maybe it's because he's not a human, but kids hold hands. That's just something that they do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Especially since these are the only two kids in this
Yeah.
entire facility, probably. Who else are they going to hold hands with? Like, to show friendship with, I guess.
Well, I don't live in the U.S. anymore, so I wouldn't know. So
Hopscotch and everything, just holding hands, double dutch,
okay.
all that kind of stuff.
Okay, all right. I'm glad we cleared that up. All right. Yeah, I could have used more Maria scenes. It reminded me of what is it, Stranger Things, a little bit, like where you had like 11 and like the underground.
Oh yeah, yeah. I can see it.
Containment center, and I felt like they could have had a little bit, couple of more character
The
moments.
silo, basically.
Yeah, like some sort of silo, and you have Gerald, who's Papa, right? And but. Yeah, those are my thoughts. Those are the only two things I thought they could have improved on. But yeah, without further ado, I've been I went on a lot with this. Chauvel.
No.
Yeah, I would just like my scenes that I like. I'll keep it not short or brief, is because you guys and we basically talked about it a lot. My favorite scene of the movie, and I have a lot of small pockets of favorite scenes and least favorite scenes, but they're in the grand scheme of things. Maria and Shadow's backstory. That is the highlight of the movie for me. I would say that even like the part where I knew going in, it's like they're not going to shoot her, she's going to explode or something. I was right. I was right. For a quick split second, I thought they were going to, but that tragedy still hits. I think if she got shot, that would have been a PG-13.
Yeah.
But
she was shot at. That's good.
Yeah, she shot at, kind of, ricochet, whatever you want to call it. It was good. I like the whole backstory between Shadow and Maria. I think it was very sweet, and I'm gonna have probably the only hot take on here. I like this origin story of the two better than the games.
I agree. I'm with you.
I have thoughts on that.
I'm with you.
I'm in that vein as well. Because I do want to talk about Maria later because I have thoughts.
Fantastic actress, Oscar Award winner.
Layla Brown's had a heck of a year. She was young Furiosa earlier in the year.
That's right.
That's right.
And she was Maria Robotnik. That's a hell of an acting career for one year.
That's true. I was gonna say that also, just because we said a lot of the good things, so I'm just gonna go straight ahead to the small least favorite scenes, because I praise this movie a lot, but I'm gonna get to it. It was incredibly fast paced, more so than and it's ironic to say that about a Sonic movie, but I think it moved too fast. I think some of the scenes were just like next scene.
Yeah.
And I don't mind it. In fact, I was kind of like, I don't know if this was working to its benefit or to its detriment. But I did feel the scene went by very quickly for an ADHD crowd, I guess. But it was that was like a small, like I said, minute problems I'm mentioning. Keanu Reeves as Shadow, I do like his monotone voice and everything. However, I don't think it's any different than what he has done before. I don't. It's funny because like Keanu Reeves was also not this is weird to say, but he's not an actor known for great acting. He's an actor for playing
He's a type. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a type. He's a type of actor. Like, okay, this is definitely a type. But I'm not saying he wasn't trying. I'm not saying he wasn't doing anything different. I mean, I'm not saying he wasn't like purposely. But I don't think. I think he just kind of went in there and just read his lines, like, okay, cool, and he just did it, and it's like, okay, that's good. That's
Yeah, I know.
basically you have that demeanor of foreshadow, and it works.
Yeah.
I just don't think you did anything fantastical, personally speaking.
Yeah, I know where you're coming from. I think the big thing here is that he's not a voice actor. And
Yeah.
it's something that I really wish that they would do more in movies is bring in people who have trained for voice acting and that's their job. And you're kind of taking a job away from a voice actor by giving it to a big name actor. And I do think it's especially look at his role in the movie versus his quote acting in the DLC for Shadow Generations. Night and day difference. I do think he didn't just go into the booth of the films and just read his dialogue. I do think he had direction. I do think they really pushed him to be as good as he is. Because I had concerns too. Love Keanu Reeves. I would marry him
Me too.
if he asked me to. But I was concerned that he was going to be flat and he would be kind of monotone. And he was monotone, but in a way that I think worked for. There was emotion where it was needed, inflection where it was needed, and it was clear that they kind of pushed him to deliver the lines. I think the way they came out, it definitely works. I think there are actors. Peter Dinklage is another example of an actor who, when it's coming out of his real mouth, with his face expressions and his body language, it works. But you put them in front of a microphone, and it's a character, it usually doesn't work. Especially not with that strong voice direction. So I will agree with you. I think he does sound like Keanu Reeves, but I will say I was happy with it.
Oh yeah, I just want to make sure it's clear. Like my problems, my least favorite things are very small.
Oh, me
but
too.
Yeah, I totally agree. Another one. This is probably. I'm not gonna get to every single nitpick I have in this movie. I have two, and then we'll move on to Godzilla. But God, that moment where he took out the USB and he blew into it and he put it back.
Yes.
And they high five saying 90s best decade.
Yeah.
I am a kid of the 90s and I was like, oh, I just rolled my eyes.
I laughed. I'm not gonna lie.
I mostly laughed because my wife works at Nintendo and I've worked in games for about the same amount of time as she has, and we grew up in the 90s together. We played video games. Both of us know you're not supposed to blow in cartridges, so it's kind of like it was very kind of like Tails is screaming at them not to do it. And it's just like, yeah, listen to Tails. He knows what he's talking about. And then of course it works, and it's just like, that's not how it works. You're gonna damage your cartridges. So like, when they're blowing in like the USB, and I'm like, that's how you damage it.
It was just like not the cartridge thing. It was like when they high five and says best decade 90s. I was like, come on, guys, come on.
Did it make you say Konichiwa?
Oh God.
I'll take that line better over the 90s decade thing, and I'm a kid of the 90s.
Both of those were. I'm going to change my reply from earlier. Those two lines are my worst parts in the film.
Yeah, fair.
One last thing, and this is like actually the part where they turn Super Saiyan and they start fighting the gun robots and everything. Very game accurate. I love that. I squeal because I'm a huge
surprised how game accurate they were.
I love anything related to gun. For me, I think I mentioned this before, but I love like military stuff and not that in real life. I just like it in fiction. I like fictional factions. I was like, are just cool to me, like the Red Ribbon Army from Dragon Ball, or the Spartans from Halo. It's just like that. It's
fiction. Yeah, it's cool.
Really cool to me. So seeing the robots, I was like, yes. And then Crush 40 start playing. It's like, okay, I was waiting for this to happen. I'm gonna say something. Crush 40 is not my favorite band. I don't have a huge love or attachment outside of City Escape. So when Live and Learn Butt Rock started playing, I was just like, okay, I guess this is how I mentally kind of check out a little bit. I still watched the whole scene. I still thought it was great. It's just that part where they're playing the rock, and I can see the millennial fans next to me who are loving Live and Learn as they kind of mutter the lyrics to themselves. and did the pose. They did the Sonic Adventure pose.
Yep.
And all I can think of, and I don't get me wrong, every part is great, but all I can think of is like clap, seals, clap.
That is like I wanted more of that. I will completely admit. Like I went into this movie wanting an animated music video. I wanted the entire song. I know it's unrealistic, and I knew that it wasn't going to happen. But I went into this movie
Especially not now. But yes.
No, I wanted the song from start to finish. Just this animated music video of Shadow and Sonic fighting or kicking butt together or whatever. And I got a few seconds, and I'll take it.
I know, and it's wrong for me. I'm not saying Crush 40 is a terrible band. I'm just saying Crush 40 wasn't a band I kind of glomped onto.
Oh yeah,
I was the right age for it, but I just didn't really care for the music outside of a couple of songs. But that's it. That's all my grievances. I have more, but they're really they do not matter. Go ahead, Cassidy. Say your favorite and least favorite.
Oh, okay. I loved basically everything from when the Eclipse Cannon went up till the end of the film. It was great. Again, the Maria Shadow flashback to the Traveling Willoughbys was.
Oh yeah,
that was great. Kudos to again George Harrison, Tom Petty, and the rest of that super group.
I was a little surprised to hear that. I'm like,
it was an odd choice, but it
Wheelberries.
worked.
Yeah, I'm like, isn't this supposed to be the 70s? They didn't form until the 80s.
Yeah,
Whatever.
I think someone.
All right. The music works.
needs to
George
do a check
Harrison.
next
All right.
time.
He's got a nice voice.
It works.
Sure.
I would say, and again, I think we've all kind of touched on it a couple times, so again, I'll be quick. The pacing was a little too fast. Like, it jumps into the movie. Like, if you go back to that first trailer, everything that happened in that first trailer was, like, in the first 10 minutes of the film. Like, it was ridiculous.
I actually kind of like that mostly because it's like I wasn't really spoiled on what happened in the rest. I kind of predicted the way the story was going to go, but because all the scenes from the trailer are mostly from the start of the film, the rest of the film is pretty much fresh. So it's I didn't watch any of the TV spots because they are filled with spoilers throughout the film.
Yeah, same here.
So and I knew that was going to happen, so I stuck to the two trailers, and I'm very happy for it. Yeah. But you're not wrong. It clips very quickly. There's some scenes that play a little too short. Like, for example, the death of Walters, like at the start. It's like, it happens so quickly. It's so fast. And then it moves on.
I didn't even know if he was really dead.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. By the way, this movie has a body count.
Yeah.
Of 3.
Yep.
I think they left it ambiguous, and we'll get into it a lot later because I think he may be coming back. And whatever shadow project they decide to do. But again, I think we needed about 2 or 3 scenes. Like the first time the film slows down is when Shadow shows up back at the gun, research base when he's walking around, and it had been so fast paced, it slowed down, but it worked because now we get to see him interact. We get to see Maria. It's like we got everything that is the emotional core. And then it speeds back up again until pretty much. I felt like it kind of slowed down when they went back to the house to plan their invasion of the gun building. I think it needed a couple more scenes, maybe like when they got to the Chow Garden, because like Walters just says, "Show up, Sonic. I'm so glad you're okay." He doesn't even explain like he says, "Who's the Hedgehog?" Well, that's Shadow. It's like, I felt like they could have did a little bit more exposition dump there.
It was literally my thought too. As soon as that scene started, he barely sits down and he's like, "Shadow's story is very much like your story." And you're like, whoa, we're just jumping straight into it.
Hey, I didn't even get to order yet.
I was gonna say buy a chili dog first or something like that. But and it wasn't bad, but I felt the exact same way. Like I felt like it was like jumping into things, and Walter was just immediately expositioning immediately. And it's like, I get it. There's a lot to do. But I feel like that scene could have breathed a little more.
It needed about 2 more minutes.
Yeah,
Like
Tails picked a spot to eat. They sit down, and immediately they're exposition dumping. And again, not a bad scene. I think it's great. Aside from
I guess I kind of get it. I mean, Shadow literally just kicked their butts.
Yeah.
I'd be kind of wondering, who was that guy?
I love that the new, when Sonic calls Shadow New Hedgehog, it's kind of a fun version of him calling him Faker.
Absolutely, it is.
Why
Yeah.
did they just
It
call him
fits
Faker though? Is it?
because in the context of the movie, like
Oh,
in
right. No one
FAQ,
confused
they
him for.
yeah, they all thought Shadow was Sonic, but now it's like, no, we're calling Sonic to deal with Shadow because we can't. He's gonna kick our ass.
And this is kind of my hot take.
No one's
I've never-
colorblind in this
Yeah.
movie.
if it's kind of my hot take. I'm not a big fan of the Faker line. Like, I think it's fun. I think it's
It's a
entertaining.
meme.
It feels very clunky dialogue to me. It feels like clunky localization, like Faker. It's just like I kind of like the banter they had instead.
I,
Just
I
like,
can see
I don't
that.
look,
I get
I don't
that.
look like you.
I
You
do
look
get
like
that,
me.
but
Why
I
do you
was
look like me?
thinking-
That was funny.
I was thinking of a movie that loves callbacks, callback and Easter
Yeah.
egg.
Yeah.
I was just surprised.
Yeah.
Like not one Faker line, not one. Okay, I
I
guess.
was a little surprised too. Like, I was expecting it.
But then when I realized that when he calls them new hedgehogs, like,
hmm
hey, I'm asking the questions here, new hedgehog. Why do you look like me?
Oh yeah,
or,
it
or,
feels like
you
a more
know-
clever way of it. Yeah.
Yeah, and like when he's on the phone, he's on the moon, and he's like, "Gotta go fast." Shad just looks at him like, "You have a catchphrase?" He's like, "That's right, new hedgehog."
And everybody
everyone
loves it.
Like
I love
he's
that.
just sassing the crap out of
I
Shadow. It's
love
like,
that.
this is the dynamic between the two of them.
Mhm,
Like they're
mhm.
gonna take
Yeah.
shots at each other left and right. But yeah, that's kind of. I mean, anything I would add. We've already talked about. Let's actually kind of dive into the characters a little bit. Since we're talking about Shadow, let's start off with him. Obviously, I think we all agree that, for the most part, Keanu did a good, did a great job. Some of his deliveries were a little flat. I thought he did really hit some good inflections. Once, like, from every line that he had from when Supersonic tackled him out of the Eclipse cannon to basically the end of the movie, I forgot that was Keanu Reeves for a second. I thought that was like that was his best performance.
Yeah.
That's true.
This is where I'm going to get into the power scaling. Is this the most powerful Shadow to date? Because
oh man,
because
this
like
is so many questions.
because like in the games, like I've noticed that they've, instead of giving Shadow a homing attack like Sonic in like Sonic X Generations, they've kind of tweaked that with his little teleport. It kicks everything. And so you see him do this like all over the movie. He's like night crawling, like he's it's just like he jumps on his bike. He doesn't really run until like the very end of it. But like the fact that Supersonic tackled him out of like into re-entry, and Shadow's sassing him back, like literally takes no damage, and then gets now. Part of me was like, I kind of convinced myself that because they've kind of established that like a strong punch to the gut will knock out the Chaos Emeralds.
It happens in Sonic, Sonic and Knuckles when Knuckles uppercuts Sonic and knocks him out of his hyper form.
But then everyone else is like, that doesn't make sense. It's supposed to be invulnerable, blah, blah, blah. Again, ridiculous power scaling.
Yeah.
But, just
I was thinking, go ahead, finish your thought.
It was so fun. Like, Shadows playing Vegeta, like, it was, again, Majin Vegeta versus Goku in the Buu Saga. He's slamming Sonic across, like, into the rocks. And then the next thing you know, Sonic's doing like the Man of Steel, like punch across the world, and they're zipping around. And then you get that great. I have this theory that I think by this time in the film, Shadow kind of knew he had gone too far, and like his only thing was like, because he knew, like when he quote unquote killed Tom, like he kind of like he said, "Oh no," he kind of realized that he had kind of set up the same events that happened to Maria.
Well, they did a really good. They did a really good job of making you know that Shadow isn't evil. The first thing he does in the film is he just wants to be like left the fuck alone. He's in Shibuya. He's not hunting anybody down. He does not know where to go. And Gun comes to him. They torment him. They try to get him back. And he initially just tells Sonic and the crew to just leave him. And they push him into fighting back. And even when he kicks her ass, he intends to just leave. he handcuffs Sonic and then just takes off because he has no interest. And then later on, obviously, he does this whole kind of like, I'm tired of giving you warnings, because they are pushing this poor guy like
Yeah.
repeatedly. So they did a really good job making it clear that this isn't some evil being. He's not, he doesn't have malicious intent. He is just in a bad place, being controlled by bad people. Yeah.
Gerald's gaslighting up to
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But then like Shadow, then Sonic just like he pushes the Tom button, and then Sonic just uppercuts him to the moon, or and then starts like Super Sonic is dragging normal Shadow because he got knocked out across the moon, and then has him dead to rights. And Shadow basically says, "Do it." And it's not in that like do it to like fake him out, but like he's like, kill me, you've earned it. And then Sonic shows why he's Sonic. He says, no, this isn't me. You got the great scene on the moon. How they're able to breathe on the moon, I do not
This is how you know the moon landing was fake. There's atmosphere there. They can breathe.
My wife was asking me the exact same, because she loved the film just as much as I did. But she would, at that scene, she was just like, hang on a second. How come they can't breathe? Oh, they can breathe on the moon, and yet Tails runs out of breath. Like when they're like Tails is like, hold your breath, and like he holds his, and then he passes out, and it's just like, hang on a second.
I have a stretch of a theory, but I don't know. I hate to think
curious,
more than what the writers think.
Tell us
I
your
think
theory.
because they still have the chaos energy.
Oh, maybe.
And I think it's given the ability to continuously breathe, at least without air for a while. How they can still talk about atmosphere, I cannot tell you. Maybe that's another chaos energy magic.
Yeah, I'm writing that off to chaos shenanigans.
Maybe it's only hedgehogs. Maybe only the hedgehogs can breathe in space. That's the canon lore.
Yeah, they are aliens.
Yet
they
he almost
like
drowned.
Frieza. They can breathe and talk in space.
But he nearly drowned in movie 2.
I forgot about that.
Yeah,
this is
we try not to think about it. We try
the water was filling his lungs. That's totally
the plot
different.
is more important, Melzilla.
Yeah.
More important.
Again, this is only issues Sonic sickos like myself and the rest of us would like bring up, as we like our brains are the meme of trying to do the math of like. But
I don't know if he's necessarily stronger, in my opinion, mostly because Game Shadow has more moves, a lot more experience, and he's done a lot more. So it's like, yes, Shadow in the movie is very, very, very powerful, but he mostly just uses his Chaos Teleport, and his speed. Everything else is using gadgets or helping with the
he gotta use his
clips.
gun. He got to try to cap Sonic.
Yes.
And so I think overall, like, while he's obviously tremendously powerful, particularly in his super form, and we haven't, and obviously holding up against the Eclipse Cannon by himself, but I do think that overall Shadow from the games, if they were to fight each other, would probably win purely because of A, experience, and B, just a much bigger arsenal, I think, of abilities.
I know this is something because, like, as Sonic fans, we know all this stuff. We know, they don't. But I was thinking, like, because obviously, like, when he undoes his limiters, like, to push the Eclipse Cannon and, like, before what I'm assuming is a Chaos Control explosion, like, obviously, as us fans, we know when he pops the limiters, he's going ham. But, like, it'd be one of those things where, like, I feel like maybe there's a cut scene where they explain that. And like for like a non-Sonic fan, it's like, well, why is he taking off his bling? Yeah, it's like again.
So people have the same opinion too. Like people who don't really know these aren't going to know what a limiter ring is.
Yeah. Yes, I was thinking that too, because someone who watched a movie, a friend of mine, asked me to explain that part and why was it important, because he didn't understand, and I just remembered the movie didn't explain that.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking for someone who's not familiar with the franchise, but like, was that he thought it was like, oh, was that to lessen the weights? But he's out in space. He thought it was like a Goku thing where he took off the wristbands and it's heavy.
Radrey, what are your thoughts on
Shadow?
Yeah.
On Shadow, it was fine.
Yeah.
It works. I mean, I don't really have. I'm not a big Shadow fan. I mean, I don't have any really strong opinions about it. I mean, it's the same as Chauvel's. It's kind of like Keanu was like, there's parts where like you think, nope, this is Keanu in a recording booth. But overall, I thought it was serviceable. I mean, it works. I mean, I have no problems with it. I kind of felt like the focus should have been more on him and less on Gerald, because there's not much Gerald lore out there, because there's way more Shadow lore, that exists, and people love this character. I didn't really like how they made him sit on the crab meat, was it base? What do you call that? The robot?
The
Oh,
I
yeah.
think it is crab meat. Yeah.
But overall, yeah, 10 out of 10, would meme again.
I do think much like Idris and with Knuckles and
Idris
Q,
loves Knuckles.
Yeah,
does.
And I love
I
him
think-
for it.
Yep.
I think the more times Keanu gets to voice Shadow,
Oh yeah.
the better he'll get.
Yeah.
Because I feel like, Idris, and even in the Knuckles show and in this one, like there's a couple lines in Sonic 2 where she's like, that's Idris in a booth.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
you got to get used to it. So I feel like if given more opportunities, which I'm sure they will, Keanu will definitely have his own,
Yeah.
his
So he
Shadow.
needs a Paramount spin-off show for sure.
Well, we'll get into that shortly.
I think it comes down to again to like film actors versus voice actors. They're going to have certain limitations, I think.
Exactly.
Mm.
Speaking of Jim, we've kind of talked about that, how, doing double duty as Ivo and Gerald, he pulled it off really well.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about how he was goofy as Gerald, and I think a lot of Gerald's goofiness is actually fake. Like,
Mm-hmm.
once kind of Gerald reveals himself as like, oh no, we're just gonna blow up the planet,
Yes.
you realize like all of his stuff
He's
is like,
sinister.
he's sinister. Like the whole line of, "Oh, Ivo, you're no Maria."
Mm-hmm.
That might be one of the coldest lines in the
Yep.
franchise.
I was like, damn, man.
I
Doing like that.
absolutely agree. I think that everything he does for the most part is a cover. I'm at a crossroads here where I finished the film twice, and I love Gerald in that film. I think he's hilarious. If I was to have had any input in the film, for better or worse, I think I would have liked maybe a little bit more of that seriousness to come out. I want the audience to realize, because his first introduction into the film is a risky one, because it's him singing a very silly song in context of the scene.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that could have left a very bad impression on fans of Gerald Robotnik and his story, because it's Jim Carrey entering the scene in a fat suit singing a song. Is this how he's going to be for the rest of the film? Personally, I think it fits. I think it was fine. He mentions he's lost his marbles, and the little back and forth they have where they try to, Ivo's asking him science questions. I think that's very entertaining, and I think it's very well done. I like that a lot. So it was a risky introduction, but I do think it worked. And I think overall, I really, really like Gerald Robotnik in the film. I think he's great. Perhaps had one big problem I had is that he didn't have a lot of discussion about what Maria meant to him. So by the time he gets into this,
that.
so you do see the scene where he's there over her body and he looks sad. Any scene in the past, he looks in what little we see of him, he looks genuine. He looks sincere, like he's upset about Maria. He cares for her, and he's like, when he's running with them, he's like, they're trying to take you, Shadow, and like he feels like a real human being there who's afraid for his children,
Yeah.
or his grandchildren. Sorry, but then it's nothing but silliness with a hint of revenge. Oops. And then at the end of the film, that's when he's like, "You're no Maria," and like I love that line. It is cold and it is brutal, but it doesn't feel like there hasn't been much to establish what Maria meant to him. Like, why was Maria there? Why is she at this facility? Why? Obviously, I'm one of those people that doesn't really need her to be terminally ill.
Yeah, same here.
I think
that's
that
right. I forgot she was terminally ill. I forgot about
It
that.
is.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. It's like in the content. The game's old. Her being sick is obviously a part of her game character. We don't
Mhm.
need another franchise where a woman or a girl is sick and dies to progress her story or to develop meaningful relationships with everybody else. I do think in the games it works. That's established. That's a part of it. It felt a little bit more realistic to me. She was less saccharine, less kind of like wispy. she felt like a real kid, and I feel that like I would have loved to have seen what this kid meant to Gerald. Like, how did she come into his care? What is she there for? Is she perhaps sick and we just never really find that out? Or is she just maybe her parents are dead and her granddad is looking after her or something like that? But I feel that a touch of that more would have helped Gerald's character a little bit.
Yeah, it would
And
have hit a bit harder, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And here's the thing: I don't mind it as it is. I think I love Gerald in that film. I think he's funny. I think his serious moments are great. Just a little bit more of the latter would be really appreciated, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely think we needed another like flashback of Gerald with Maria and Gerald with Shadow and Maria to kind of balance out the dynamic. Kind of interesting. When you look at SA2, we know that, after Shadow was ejected the planet, Gerald got a hold of him and tweaked his memories. Well, in this one, Shadow, he kind of manipulates Shadow because he's actually alive. It's interesting, just kind of not to go back to Shadow for a second. I think this movie gave Shadow the most agency he's ever had between the games and the rest of the franchise.
Yeah.
So,
I agree.
And so it was nice to see that. I was going to talk about Maria later, but we're talking about her now. The opening scene of her playing the guitar. I'm thinking to myself, if Maria had lived, she would have been Taylor Swift before Taylor Swift. And this explains why Shadow is a Swiftie. She knew it.
Is that a new meme? Now Shadow's a Swiftie?
Oh, no.
It was from a Twitter takeover.
Oh, I didn't know that.
They were it was with Frontiers. They were talking about like what their favorite songs. Sonic was saying like, Vandalize, and Eggman was like, oh, I've been about lullabies. And then Amy and Shadow start singing Anti-Hero. And everyone else is just like, wait, what? It's like, and Shadow's like, oh no, I've been found out. And Amy's like, oh my god, you're a Swiftie. And
oh my god,
Sonic's about to happen. It's on YouTube. It is arguably one of Kirk Thornton's best lines.
All right, I'm gonna have to check it out after this pod.
It's great. I'll send it to you, Chauvel.
Thank you.
I think this is just the best version of Maria. I mean,
this is the best version. Absolutely, I love. She it's like what Dobbs said. She feels like a kid, like an actual. Not like this whimsical, angelic being.
Oh,
she's gonna be. She's rollerblading, which I think is a nice little thing to show why Shadow runs like he does.
Yes.
They're rollerblading. They're causing a bit of a ruckus. Not like too much, but they're just.
She's a rebel. She's a bit of a rebel.
Yeah. They built a pillow fort.
Like wiggles her eyebrows when he's like getting experimental. It's like, hey, let's ditch. And he's like, yep, all right.
Yeah, if
and they also have like a pillow fort where they watch not the Bio Lizard movies.
Yes.
That is my favorite Easter egg besides the Chow in Space and Professor Victoria cameo in the movie.
I was like, what? When I saw that, I was like, oh, am I really seeing this?
Yeah, everyone's freaking out. Like, dang it, Sega, you are just pulling our strings with that. But yeah, I mean, I love Stephanie Shea's performance.
She's so good.
And Dark Beginnings and Sonic X Shadow Generations, but what Alayla did with like the 7 minutes she was on screen, just solidified. She is the best Maria we've had.
I like that she's not. I like that she's not tropey. She's not this perfect. Like I think Chauvel referred to her as like in the game as angelic. Like she's not like this like little mousy kind of like. Again, I love game Maria. I got no problems with her in the context of the games. But I'm glad that she's not mousy. She's not like kind of like perfectly like by Gerald's side all the time. She's not like perfectly obedient. She's a rebel. She's got a bit of a like a wild streak to her. She's a kid. She's doing kid things, eating popcorn and watching movies, and like she's found a friend in this cold, isolated, probably terrible place to exist. I don't even know why Maria is there. I don't think they really explain it.
They didn't explain it.
They just said he likes to have his daughter around. It's just
the granddaughter everywhere.
She's got all her stuff like she lives there, so it's like.
It makes me think she probably doesn't have. Her parents are probably not around.
That was my
especially
thought
when you
too.
know that Robotnik. I mean, sorry. Eggman or whatever Ivo is adopted. Like it's
Mhm.
established that he's been adopted. So I'm
orphan.
guessing his parents are not around.
Yeah, that was my thoughts too. But yeah, no, she feels very real. Easily my favorite version of Maria too. And again, just because I know people are going to yell at me, I have no problem with Maria in the games. I love Maria. I think she's great in the context of the games. But like everything else in this movie, they've done a really good job of bringing this character into the real world and making her feel more like a real fleshed out human being with a little bit more agency and a little bit more personality that isn't bound to, I guess, whatever it is that the writers wanted it to be. I feel like she just feels like a real kid.
Yeah.
What do you think, Radrey? What is your verdict on Maria?
Well, same as Shadow. 10 out of 10. Would meme again. No notes.
No notes.
No notes for Shadow. No notes for Maria. The only notes I have are on Jim Carrey. Because, as I said prior, I kind of like, it's another thing. It's like, I don't know. I could say that, like, for example, like, as you know, I'm not much of an IDW fan. I'm not. I mean, sorry, John. I mean, the stories.
here.
The stories. I enjoyed the artwork. It's beautiful. It's a work of art. I love it. It represents everything about Sonic that I wish I had back in the day. I'm just gonna say. There are certain times in the stories I'm not sure what's going on behind the scenes, and I don't really want to know what's going on behind the scenes because it's like the more I know, and it's more like I don't need this information, because like I don't
just want a really good story.
yeah. So one of the things like with IDW that kind of bugs me. I mean, I will eventually go back to it and read it again and figure out what it is, because sometimes things get
I'm
better with
currently
time.
caught up finally, but go ahead.
What are you caught
No,
up to,
I'm not.
Chauvel?
I need
Caught
to
up on
catch
the IDW comics. I'm finally caught up on the comics.
Okay, what arc are you at? Just so I know.
Oh, they just wrapped up the I was gonna say
Phantom Rider.
snowboarding, but Phantom Rider arc, yeah.
Okay, snowboarding one. Sorry, I had
Yes,
to
the
say it.
snowboarding.
The not snowboarding one. Okay. Yeah, I mean, the one thing that kind of bugs me about it is, like, they kind of seemed like with the very first couple of issues of IDW, they did mostly, like, Sonic Heroes, and then this one is, like, Sonic Riders, the Phantom Rider thing. And so with this movie, you had, you're introducing, Gerald, and I'm sort of sitting there thinking, why are they introducing him now? Why is he coming out now? And I understand that maybe this is like, they can obviously do something like they have a Shadow TV show, or they have, I don't know, 5 lines of dialogue that solve this problem, right? But I guess that was one thing that kind of took me out of it a little. Like, why is he here? Like, why is he being introduced? Like, I guess, movie, because we need movie. That's all I can put together. I mean, I also wanted to say, too, one other thing was, it's like Jim Carrey here. It's like I was saying earlier that I was taken out of his performance. And I'm sitting here thinking, I've seen Jim Carrey do excellent work, doing other characters. I'm not sure if it is he's just tired or if he's just leaning on his previous work. Because, I mean, not to age gate him here, but he's like a 60-year-old man still like doing all this, being, Mr. Rubber, right? the rubberness
He is still more energetic than I am.
I would be never that energetic in my entire life.
Yeah,
I wish I had his
I was like,
energy.
where do you find this? And you're right, he's getting out there, and you can tell I think most of us follow Jim Carrey's career and his movies, not like super closely, but we have seen all the big ones.
Yeah.
But he is getting up there. But I was just thinking, like, where do you find the energy, my guy?
Yeah.
Like,
And
how are you doing this?
And honestly, I honestly can't remember how old he is in the games, but he doesn't seem like he's a very young man in the films anyway. So I feel like
that's true.
I feel like his age, like Jim Carrey's age, is actually perfect, especially since he's obviously playing an older character with Gerald. I mentioned this before, and like I did really enjoy the fact that he plays these characters very differently. Maybe it's more nuanced than I'm thinking, but I feel personally that these felt like two characters. They didn't feel like the same, like Jim Carrey just tweaking one. He's, like I said, if you look at the way that Gerald's face rests compared to Ivo's, it's very different. The way that he carries his body is different. The way that he moves is different, and the way that he even delivers his lines is different. So it's still obviously Jim Carrey under there at the end of the day. Like Radrey isn't wrong. Like you can tell that
Yes.
this is Jim Carrey doing Jim Carrey things. The only thing that I will disagree about is I do honestly feel like Jim cares about the role. I don't think he would be back if he didn't, because of his pre-established, doesn't really do sequels very often.
Right.
I do
Yeah.
feel like he
Not at all, really.
he seems like he gives a shit about the character enough to enjoy it. Like he doesn't feel like he's phoning it into me. Like
Yeah.
you're probably right that it is very Jim Carrey, which again is, for better or
And
worse, kind of part of him being Jim Carrey. I guess that's his shtick. And he
yeah,
probably has a lot of. Oh, you
oh
go,
no,
you go.
continue, please.
I was only going to say, like, I think he has a lot of creative freedom with the character, which again, better or worse, maybe the directors can step in and tone that down in future for anything that needs to be more serious. For example, Gerald Robotnik. But I do feel that Jim feels invested in the role enough to give it a really good shot. Like, I really like his. I went from being scared of this Robotnik from the first film to like,
Yes.
I think he's perfect in this
From the
specific
trailer
role.
of the first film, I thought Jim
Yeah.
Carrey, besides Sonic looking horrendous,
Yes.
was going to be the worst, most annoying part of the movie.
Oh, me
And
too.
even after they redesigned Sonic, I was like, he's going to be obnoxious, going to be loud, like
Mhm, mhm.
And I saw it, and I'm the first movie, I'm like, I really hope this is before the sequel was announced. Like, I really hope he
Mhm.
comes back for Sonic 2 because I love Jim
He's
Carrey.
so likable. Yeah, he's so likable.
Well, you're right. I mean, John, you're really right. I mean, he's a real jerk in that first movie, like throwing
Yep.
people through windows and pulling stone by the teeth and
Mhm,
all that stuff.
And going into some weird stuff about like his childhood trauma, which is
Yeah,
I remember being
what
like,
was
do we
that
really
all
need?
about?
But yeah.
I guess I don't know. One last thing before I lay this to rest. I mean, I don't know, because to me, I'm watching, like I was mentioning this earlier in our earlier Sonic 1 and Sonic 2 reviews that we did for the show. I've seen Jim Carrey, portray other roles. Like one role that he did excellently, which I felt like he was criminally underused for, was like Kick-Ass 2, where he played Captain Stars and
yes.
Stripes, right? Where we don't get to see him like, have any action scenes, or I don't know if we didn't want to do them because of reasons.
The movie was kind of weak, but he was great in it.
Yeah, no, he was excellent. Like he completely disappears into the role. Like you kind of forget that it's him. I mean, he's done other serious roles, like I guess like Eternal Sunshine, The Spotless Mind.
Well, one of my all-time favorite films.
Yeah, or was I Love You, Philip Morris, which was excellent. Where I didn't really look at him like he was Jim Carrey. Like I don't see him as, Dumb and Dumber or, Ace Ventura or
The Mask
or Liar Liar, or The Mask.
True.
Because I mean, when I'm watching this, I'm seeing Ace Ventura, Liar Liar, Dumb and Dumber. That's what I'm seeing, not Eternal Sunshine or The Number 23, if anybody saw that movie, or that other serious movie he did that I can't remember the name of. That
The Majestic.
Not The Majestic. I would argue that role in particular, that was that's Jim Carrey playing the same role that he played in The Mask. The kind of the guy who's kind of down on his luck, and he's having a lot of trouble like fitting in. You don't really see that much in Sonic.
When you mentioned that you saw different movies, watching Jim Carrey, like when I say different movies, I mean him playing different roles, Dumb and Dumber, The Mask, all the comedic stuff. And I totally get that, because I'm not gonna lie, every time he's in a comedic role, I see other Jim Carreyisms in the movie, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing. It's just something I can't help but notice.
Yeah.
If I'm not gonna see the Eternal Sunshine of a Spotless Mind Jim Carrey, I'm not gonna see the Truman Show Jim Carrey. I'm gonna see the wackier versions of this guy.
See, this is what I'm saying. It's like Twin Peaks season 3. Like I'm noticing all these like little small things. I'm like, why am I picking up on this? Like it was great, but it's also taking me out of it at the same time.
I'm so used to it now.
Yeah.
So used to it now that it's what I see Jim Carrey as. Don't get me wrong, I do see him as Robotnik, but not the Robotnik from the games. He is the Robotnik in this movie.
Yeah.
Much like Jim Cummings is the Robotnik of Sat AM.
Exactly, yeah.
John Bradley, the Robotnik of Adventures of. Jim has really cemented his take on this character as, part of the echelon of the Egg Council, if you will.
Council. I think I mentioned
Trying to
this.
take notes.
I mentioned this earlier, but I think it's kind of just like where it's like you kind of have to have bought into these characters. I think in the previous films, if you have, you're not going to have any problems with them. In fact, you're going to like them. I think for the most part, if you've always had a certain disconnect with the characters for any legitimate reason, it's probably going to continue. Robotnik is always going to be maybe off to you, or maybe Knuckles is off to you, or something like that. Especially since the second one, he kind of took on the visual look of Eggman more, and kind of like I'm fine with his personality and his portrayal. I'm probably more likely to buy into it, I think, than other people, and I think that's totally valid. If like you look at it and like, I'm seeing too much Jim Carrey, or I'm seeing not enough of the X thing that I want to see. I think that's fine. I think that's valid.
Okay. I got a preachy soapbox moment. My preachy soapbox moment is not everything in Sonic has to be canon. Not everything has to have a tight little bow on it.
Yeah.
Not everything needs to be like fit well. Going back, I'm gonna go back to this franchise, Twin Peaks, over and over again. Like if you watch that, they don't tie everything in a bow. There's no closure, and maybe that's better. I don't know.
It's like season 2 of Sad AM.
I was gonna say, if we're all Archie,
cliffhanger.
If you grew up on Archie, then you learn to get like you're fine with that.
If you grew up on American comics, you should be fine with things not being canon.
My favorite all-time Sonic character doesn't even exist anymore. She's
exactly
dust on the wind.
They still
stuck
exist.
in the void.
They exist in our hearts.
A twinkle in the fandom's eye. Yeah.
He's still owned by Sega, though. We all know it. Kind of, if we progress on, we've kind of touched on. We talked about the Sonic Team Sonic. Ben's obviously doing a good job. I mean, Colleen has solidified that she's the best Tails across any medium.
She cannot be replaced.
She cannot be replaced. Idris is, whenever those pictures of him with the Knuckles gloves in the VA.
I love him as Knuckles. He's so good.
He's so good.
They've grown at the role. I mean, obviously, Ben and Colleen are the best because they actually are voice actors. Though Ben is one of the few that actually does both on a regular basis, live acting and voice acting. I did want to bring up this, and I feel like this is I don't really consider it like a negative against the movie. It's kind of I think it's more of an artistic choice. But I feel like Kristen Ritter's Rockwell was almost such a nothing character. Like there so I know you guys didn't watch any of the TV spots, but like in one of the TV spots they did they showed off the holotech. They were doing
that. Is the one TV spot. I will amend my earlier statement. That is the one TV spot I did see. I think I know where you're going to go with this. And yes, I 100% had the same. I think I even talked about it on Blue Sky before the film came out. I was like saying I will bet you $5,000 that Kristen Ritter is going to be Rouge, and she's going to be in fucking face.
Where's my money?
Yeah, really. Glad we didn't hold you to that.
Stricken from the record.
She should have been Rouge. Rouge in disguise, it lined up in my movie, the perfect one of the perfect what if ending stinger scenes. The ones we got would be Shadow and Lockup are kind of he's turned himself in, and next she walks in, you see her just go up to the camera, pull out, and he's just kind of what is you and I are gonna work together, and you're just why? It's and just kind of the big reveal that she was Rouge all along. Because that's when they first announced that she was in the film, everyone thought she's got to be Rouge.
Yeah.
Now, she's a little more sardonic than, game and comic Rouge. I mean, Rouge we all know is the, femme fatale. Personally, I would love to see Lady Gaga play her in the film. That's just me. But I look at what we got with Rockwell's is she cause she's kind of dismissive of them, but it's not she's super antagonistic. But then you get to the whole scene where they're I expected all of you, blah blah blah. It's it felt like they kind of tried to make her up to be kind of the new evil face of Gunn, because Walter's fate still. But when Tom pulls the the looky loo to get the Eclipse key, she's she's not like shocked, like you're still alive. She's like, oh, you're walking around. You okay? You must, she buys it. Like she obviously thinks he's still alive because if he was dead, she's like, he's dead. Who are you? But I just feel like because I saw her do some of the press shows for like CBS, and she talked about how her kids were so excited that she was in Sonic that she hopes she gets like brownie points for the carpool driving with the other kids now that she's in Sonic. I felt like her character was just kind of pointless.
Okay, it's so weird. If you want to say something first, I'll say my thing second.
No, you go. I'm just going to say something dumb, so you go first.
I felt like when I first saw the movie and I heard about that, I didn't see the TV spot, but I heard about it. I'm thinking like, oh yeah, she's gonna be Rouge. But then I'm watching the movie, and of course, spoiler, she doesn't show up at all. But I'm just like, okay, I'm watching the movie, and there was just no way they could have squeezed her in, like narratively. Now, even at the end credits, I don't think would have worked as well. Like that's just me personally thinking. That's just my head. Like, okay, there's no way they could have crowbarred her in. That being said, if she comes back for the fourth movie, I want her and Rouge to have a Topaz and Rouge from Sonic X relationship. Yep. That would be so great. The first thing that would be so funny.
I was half joking around earlier that this isn't what I want, just to preface this, but given the way that these movies go, I wouldn't be surprised if like the next movie, like for example the Shadow movie, she uses the holotech to change herself into a Rouge, and then it gets stuck, and she's permanently like that forever.
That'd be hilarious.
That would be awful, but funny.
Fans would be so mad.
I know.
That's the Rouge now, is that she's actually just a human, just permanently accidentally disguised. Yeah, that's terrible.
Yeah. She's been the human the whole time. You just haven't been paying attention.
Put that out there.
I was kind of secretly hoping throughout Sonic 3 that she had the same tech as Tails. I know it wouldn't have made any sense, but I was like, maybe she has the same tech and she's still Rouge underneath there, and maybe and if that's the case, maybe she comes back in the Shadow movie or whatever they make and reveals that she's Rouge then. I was like, I'm not going to rule it out yet. Maybe she comes back in Kristen Ritter comes back in Sonic 4 or a Shadow movie or whatever, TV series. Turns out she was Rouge, she just didn't reveal it in the third film.
I would love if they did. They retconned her into Rouge.
That's what I'm thinking. It's like maybe that's why she's standoffish, is because she's trying not to reveal who she is. So she's like, "Oh, you aliens," even though she is one herself, and she's being kind of like mean or whatever like that because she's just maybe the movie version is a little bit more sardonic than whatever. But by the end of the film, it was just like, all right, that theory's gone out the window. I think you'd have to be very kind of like dismissive of established movie lore for it to work.
I
would love it though if she was in.
What about you, Radrey?
Captain Rockwell.
Should Ritter have been Rouge?
What are my thoughts of Captain Rockwell?
Yeah.
She's fine.
She was fine.
It's like
I said, I think they're all having fun though.
It's pointless. I mean, I don't know. When you were talking about this, the only thing that's going through my head was, I've worked in, films before, here in Japan, like actual films, and there's so much that goes into them. Like so much. And I mean, I don't really want to apologize for the people who put these things together, but if you've listened to the Bumblecast and you've listened to like Ian Flynn talk about how he, puts together Sonic, he's right. I mean, there's lots of moving pieces, and there's a lot of things that are going around that, there's certain scenes that probably get cut. Like, I don't know, like you probably know, like with Sonic 2, the video game, not the movie, the video game, there was a lot of levels that were cut.
Yeah.
There were a lot of things.
I've been in the games industry for 15 years, and I can absolutely guarantee you that's basically what happens. You basically have like a design sheet of like what you want, and once you start production, you start to realize that like, we're running out of time for this, so that's got to get cut, or we don't have the budget, and let's move it on to the next project. So I wouldn't be surprised. Theory, just very big theory here. Let's say that she was intended to be Rouge, but at some point, maybe during the writer's strike or during something like, or during the
thing. Yes.
Yeah, when they start looking at the overall package, we don't have time for this. So we're going to keep her character because it's too late. We need her to do the role that she was written to do, but we can't have her be Rouge because we've just got no time. So you cut that aspect of her character out, and you keep the core part, which is her whole plot with the key and whatnot, but you kind of lose a lot in the process. Which is, if again, this is just me theorizing, it could be completely off base, but if that was the case, kind of sucks for Kristen Ritter. I'm sure she would have been thrilled to have, for whatever. But again, maybe they'll come back in the next movie and they rectify that or something
yeah,
like that.
okay.
Yeah.
One thing I want to throw in here was was it part of their contracts, the actors who played Rachel and Randall, to like be in the third movie, and so they had to figure out how to put them in the third movie.
I'm pretty sure that's exactly what it is.
I think that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's
so
like we gotta get him in there somehow. Let's have Tom and Maddie pretend to be them.
That's why
Like-
that's the only scene in the movie that kind of bums. It doesn't bum me out, but it is kind of just like, all right, we go through this process of them being sassy again, I guess. Not to mention, it's kind of weird that Tom takes on the role of the husband, but whatever.
yeah, it's like, man, I've always wanted to be Randall. And then, like,
Yeah.
or
It's
what's
like,
her name?
ugh.
Go.
Potentially kind of weird, but all right.
Yeah, it was a little, there are different ways you could take that, and it
Yeah.
kind of.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, like that's gonna make a terrible joke, but let's keep going.
Yeah, let's move on from that.
One quick thing. Fun fact. Do you know what they call Donut Lord in Japan? He's not called Donut Lord.
What do they call him?
Mochi Lord?
No. Donut King. Don't ask me why. I guess they
Donut
localize it better.
Daimyo?
No.
Maybe it just rolled off the tongue a little bit better. And
Yeah. Anyway, just thought I'd throw that out there. Continue, please, Malzilla.
We've talked a lot about the movie. We've talked what we like. We're talking don't like. Let's talk about the future, aka the last two scenes and where this crazy, hedgehog hole is going to take us. So, as I mentioned earlier, I have some box office notes. So, as of yesterday, Thursday, Sonic 3 has grossed $166 million domestically in 14 days. It passed Sonic 1's $150 million, which it was only in theaters for a month because, the whole world kind of turned upside down with COVID and whatnot. But if you look at Sonic 2 only grossed $190 million domestically and was in theaters for 90 to 91 days. So Sonic 3 is doing very well. It very much could pass Sonic 2 by the end of this weekend, if not by next week. So Paramount is making money. So we obviously know Sonic 4 has been confirmed they're aiming for a spring of 2027. Jim's interested in coming back. And obviously with the opening, mid-credits scene, we see, Sonic get attacked by what looks to be a Terminator time-traveling metal, and then the Brotherhood of Metallics Fleetway reference, only to, have no fear, Amy Rose is here. So, general consensus, everyone kind of seems like Sonic 4 is going to be some kind of Sonic CD, Sonic Heroes.
I hope so.
With a little Age of Ultron and maybe Terminator involved.
I wouldn't be surprised if Little Planet shows up above New York or something like that. I've seen people saying "Oh, Sonic 4 is finally going to be off-world." I mean, I said that everyone was hoping that for Sonic 3, and that didn't really happen. I don't think it was accidental or just just generic that Sonic winds up outside New York at the end of the movie. I suspect that's where Amy has been bunkered down or has just arrived. And maybe let's say it does do the Sonic CD route, which again I would love it if it did. Maybe Little Planet shows up above New York, and then you can do some off-world stuff, kind of. But it's I don't know. We'll see what they do.
My theory is with the end of the third movie, with because the Eclipse Cannon, yes, it explodes, but with the way it colors and the fact that we see Shadow in the end credits scene, I think that was a chaos control time travel thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think, and with the way Metal Sonic shows up, looking like almost a 1-for-1 for the Terminator time travel, I think Eggman Ivo has been transported to the future, and maybe the Metal Sonics and Amy are from the quote unquote bad future
Mm.
and have now are coming back to kind of this. I kind of had this theory with like these movies with like Jim, because he was super serious in the first one, and then
Mhm.
he kind of got goofier,
Mhm.
sucking on those, chaos quills. It's a hell of a drug.
Mhm.
Um, but
Kept
like,
Gerald alive.
yeah, exactly. And that was kind of supposedly one of the cut scenes, is that's what kept him alive was,
Mhm.
chaos quills. So I think one of the reasons Jim is also kind of goofy in this one is because, like, let's be honest, when we see Eggman in, watching the telenovelas, the Ultimate Passion,
Mhm.
like, he is clearly depressed. Like, he's going through some stuff, and then he kind of gets back on his feet. So, like, I think he's like, we're gonna see maybe a return more to, um, like a like a Sonic 1 Eggman, maybe a little bit of Sad AM Robotnik, in it. Like, imagine like if we go to the bad future and like Eggman Citadel is the Sad AM fortress.
Mhm.
They
Uh-huh.
did it in like the Seasons of Chaos, one of the miniseries. They could do it. Paramount, give us something.
I
But
suspect, if anything, he'd probably be like, he was in Sonic 2 movie, where he's kind of like out to dominate the world or whatever. And I can imagine a scene where Sonic being like, "I thought you was on our side now," and he can be like, "I just didn't want to destroy it. Doesn't mean I don't want to still conquer it." So it's like
exactly.
he's kind of like still kind of just like, "No, I'm still evil, just because I was helping you that one time."
Yeah,
I can see them going that direction.
And
me too.
in
And the
my
whole
mind,
future thing makes sense. Like, the more I think about it, is
Mhm.
that he blew up, I put in quotations, transported to the future, he ruled, he's doing the Aku thing, and now they have to travel to the past
Mhm.
to find Sonic to stop Robotnik from basically destroying the future that they went time, like undoing the timeline here.
he's coming back to, finish what he started, because now,
Yeah.
he's got a future. You know, building one metal Sonic is one thing. Mass producing him is a whole. That's a lot of resources,
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
um,
I'm sure
plus
Knuckles feels very offended that he was not mass
Mhm.
produced.
people are like, "What? This would not have happened if he had made a Metal Knuckles." We'll find out
I
about
gotta
that.
say, it was very
Yeah.
cute that Knuckles calls himself part of Team Sonic at the end. I thought
Yeah.
that was a
Yeah,
nice
that
little
was,
touch.
That was very nice.
them making up at the end was
Character growth.
it
Can't
was a
remember.
nice.
I can't remember. Isn't it from the games where like Sonic says like he uses that line where he's just like, "How about just team?" Isn't that from one of the games? I
I think it's
swear.
one of the Sonic Boom
I don't
games,
remember
from what
that.
I.
I
Okay.
swear
Mhm.
that there is some. I remember hearing somewhere that at some point in the games he actually does say that, where he's just like, "How about just team?" or something like that. I can't remember. If
I
it
think it's
is,
from the
then I guess
Boom games,
Internet, help
I
us
wouldn't
out.
be
yeah,
surprised.
yeah.
but
You guys have captured. Was it seen the bit with Maddie in her shirts, right? Her
yeah,
color
that
clothing. How it
they're
always.
just they're gonna mess with us in the next one. She's gonna wear like 5 different shirts, and
Yeah.
it's gonna throw everyone.
Because if we are going to do time travel in the next one, and if he isn't in it throughout the whole movie, is she going to wear a silver colored T-shirt at some point? And he's going to be the cameo at the end of the movie. Because
So
if you are messing with time,
I have a theory, because I feel like they can only get Jim for so many of these movies, and the fact that
Mhm.
he's
Yeah.
done 2 sequels that's he's only done like Ace Ventura 2, Dumb and Dumber 2, and then
Mhm.
obviously Sonic 2 and 3. So this is not something he's done a whole lot of.
Yeah.
I think for Sonic 4, because he says he's open to it, and I feel like a great thing for him to bounce off, because like you know obviously he was attached to Gerald. He had finally found a family.
Mhm.
Well, I feel like this is the perfect way, because he got burnt by his biological family. So what do? You make a family.
Mhm.
You can't spell Metal Sonic without Metal Sun. And what if we brought Sage into this?
Hmm.
I mean, Sage is new.
I bet it'll be like a cameo thing, like he put in some sort of virus and it's called Sage
Yeah.
or
Yeah,
something.
probably. But
And
I feel like,
let's say that
oh
Jim
god,
Carrey isn't. Let's say that Jim Carrey isn't like fully back for a film. Like he doesn't have it in him to be in a fourth film, but he wants to be represented in some way. Maybe he made some tapes, some like hologram like recordings of himself, like if you're reading this, I'm dead kind of thing, And it's
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
like that was like left behind for like Metal Sonic or something like that.
Well, that's something I think they definitely need to do is like we've done orbital cannons, we've done Super Saiyan hedgehogs, we've done giant robots. It's time for our
It's time for the
kaiju.
future. Oh,
It's time for the
kaiju.
kaiju. We need whether it be perfect chaos,
Future kaiju.
whether it be metal
Oh yes,
overlord.
that water CG is gonna be perfect.
It's probably going to be Metal Overlord, isn't it? If it's going to be,
Yeah,
Oh, Battle Overlord would be so cool.
that would be dope. But and if we definitely bringing silver, it's like I have this grand vision in my mind of like Sonic 5 and 6 being filmed back to back, and this being the quote unquote Sonic 06 inspired, like end game. You have Mephiles be the Thanos. I'm in my mind I'm thinking Lawrence Fishburne, just because that would be a perfect banter between him and Shadow.
So
But
6 movies and a reboot. Got it.
yep.
yeah, because I feel like they're gonna have to reboot it.
Or at least reboot into actual animated
Animation.
movies.
Yeah,
Because that's what they did with the Smurfs. I'm sorry, poor comparison.
Yeah.
But that's basically what they did. They did 2 Smurfs movies and an animated one afterwards.
or Transformers.
Or Transformers,
one,
that's
like,
true.
Why
It's that
did
they had
more
like
people go see that
15
movie?
Transformers movies.
Yeah.
Before we finally got TF1, which didn't do
Yeah.
well, which kills me because that was
That's
such
such a
great
good film.
movie.
Here's an
told you all
interesting
to
little
see that. It's-
tidbit is the guy who plays Pablo and 1 in Sonic 3.
Mhm.
It's Cristo Fernandez. He does the voice of Wheeljack in Transformers: Rise of the Beasts. He also has Pablo on the side of his van. So there you go.
That's cool. Nice.
That's actually kind of neat.
Yeah, he's a cool
So-
actor. He's very fun.
So let's ask. As I kind of mentioned, Shadow still being alive was the end-to-end credit scene. It seems like for
By the
most
way,
part-
I gotta point out, what is it? Me and the girlfriend both groaned whenever we figured out. Oh, that's just all they do. Like all it does is he picks up an inhibitor ring. That's it. All right.
It's an end credit scene. What did you expect?
I don't know.
wasn't
I thought
expecting
they would
much.
use the. I guess they had to use the post credit scene with the Amy thing because obviously they want people to see that. So
Yeah.
I guess they had to do that because I'll
For me,
throw
it
this.
was just more like Shadow will return. in
Yep.
Sonic 4.
Yep.
Well, my question for you guys
your
is
question.
Mm-hmm.
because it seems like they've been reporting this like for the last couple years now, is that there seems to be a divide of whether it's going to be a Shadow series or a Shadow movie. I think
Shadow series, unless you can't afford Keanu for like 2 episodes
Yes,
and do
that
a
might
movie.
be a thing. Make him sit while Wade goes bowling again.
see, that's my thing is like I think with the Knuckles series, which I kind of want a season 2 if they like actually delve into Knuckles stuff like that.
All
Because
right,
I
more
heard,
Pistol Pete.
well,
Oh,
I was
God.
reading somewhere that like originally they wanted to introduce the Chaotix in the Knuckles show.
I
Yeah.
don't know how like Vector would look in live action, but keep going.
I want a noir chaotic detective agency movie or a
Yeah.
TV series set in New York, and it's black and white. And it's a noir series.
Oh God, Charmy, no, Charmy, no. But I
Not
think to
Lemon
me-
Sundop Drandywine or whatever it's
Oh
called.
no!
Not that. No, Charmy, no.
Lakeshore Drive.
Uh,
Oh boy, we had to go there, didn't we?
yeah.
But,
Yes.
Of course. We got to have the deep
with
lore cuts. We're the
110%.
lore people.
Exactly.
We're the outsider lore people.
It's true.
Anyway.
We're deep in the mines.
Anyway,
But
sorry. Keep going.
I think with the amount of money this movie is making, I think it's gonna justify that they do give him a movie.
Mhm.
And how strange would it be if within like a 4-year period from 2024 to say like 2028 or whenever this hypothetical Shadow movie comes out, that we would get that Black Doom would show up twice.
Mm.
Because that's, they kind of imply that, Shadow, he wasn't created by Gerald. He
No.
just, he, did this, the Saiyan arrival. It's like, oh, he's in a,
And
not
like I
God.
said, he doesn't know why he's there, why
Mhm.
he doesn't have any memories of being in space.
So,
So
Yeah.
opens it
like-
up a lot.
Why is
and
he a
if they want to
hedgehog?
do the
the
amnesia,
aliens are hedgehogs.
yeah, maybe there's a reason Sonic looks like
In
Shadow.
the world, instead of humans evolving, hedgehogs evolved.
Yeah.
They were the first to crawl out of the ocean.
There you go. They have
Sonic
that defense.
racing
They
is
have
like-
that defense
yeah.
mechanism. The quills. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm excited though, regardless of whether they make movies or TV series.
Me
I
too.
would normally say TV series are better because they're more long form and you can fit a lot more into them. I think they made a big misstep. Hey, I will preface anything I say here in this entire podcast. Like what you like, dislike what you dislike. Absolutely fine. You're valid for whatever your feelings are. Personally, I felt like the Knuckles series was a misstep. I feel like they
Oh yeah. I
they
agree.
took the character. They took the character it was funny. I enjoyed it. In a vacuum, I would find it a very amusing show. But Knuckles has deep lore, deep history, and they could have done so much to build up that character that could have fed into Sonic 3, like we talked about before with the Master Emerald and the Shrine. And I feel like Knuckles is a beloved character, one of a lot of people's favorites. He's one of my favorite characters, and it would have been really cool to have seen him, dig into that lore a bit more, and maybe even like instead of spending all that time with all the humans, bring in another Knuckles character. I mean, I guess to be fair, they did, but it was like with his tribal
Patrick
owner.
and Mac.
Yeah,
Yes, thank
I
you.
was surprised it wasn't why am I blanking on her name?
Tikal.
Yeah, Tikal.
Yeah.
I'm surprised it wasn't her.
Yeah,
In
but
my mind, I see Zendaya as Tikal.
That's actually really, really good. I would love to see her voice that character.
But yeah, I think we're in agreement there. It's just it was a missed opportunity. But if you learn from that, and you have more, I could be wrong. I kind of get the impression that the Knuckles TV series was written kind of maybe around the same time or just after the Sonic 1 movie, where maybe they didn't have the confidence that they built with the movies 2 and onwards. I feel
That
like
could be true. There was a gap between the first and second movie, and I guess they
Yeah.
didn't want to lose any sort of momentum.
That's my only thought. I mean, I could be
think there
wrong.
was a lot of budget issues because, like, having Knuckles on screen is like super expensive.
Oh yeah,
all three of them.
Yeah.
Now four. I can bet.
yeah.
Yes.
But
so-
maybe they learn from that going forwards.
I hope so.
Yes. So all we're really saying here is we need more soul touching. We need more, babies and microwaves, and we need more
Yeah.
lemon sun drop dandelion
Green
Hey,
Knuckles.
and green
Give
knuckles.
me
Yes,
Lena-
yes.
Give me Lena Headey as Leon Da. That's my cast.
Okay, all right. I'm joking, by the way. It's a joke for the people out there
I know.
who know what I'm talking about. The deep knuckles.
If you know,
lore
you
cut.
know.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're fun.
Also,
They're fun
can you-
reads. It's fun because I have no memories of reading any of those Archie Knuckles comics from when I was a
I
kid.
do.
I
Okay.
do.
I'm glad you
I
do.
have
I'm glad
stories.
someone remembers it. All right.
I didn't like it then.
Oh wow.
I did.
Okay.
I
All
did.
right. All right.
I actually, weirdly enough, back in the day, thought my opinion would change wildly now as an adult. But when I was growing up in the '90s, I thought the Knuckles comic was great. I really loved how deep the lore was, but there was a point where, as I started to mature, I was like, "This is very Star Trek-y, very kind of like not what I want from Knuckles." I think as a kid, I was just happy to have a comic book, period,
Oh yeah.
with these
Yeah.
characters in them, and I really loved, regardless of my other opinions of its writer, I really at the time liked just the attention to detail, I guess, and the expanded world that was creating. It was interesting. It was
There was some fun
fascinating.
world
Believe me,
building
I
ideas.
didn't. It's not like I didn't like it because I was so, like, I would say intelligent or something. I was so like,
No, no.
oh, this is just bad writing.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
didn't like it because it didn't have some of my favorite characters I wanted to see in it.
I mean, that's
And
valid.
like,
I
and
think,
there's other characters that were being pushed, like let me just say it, the Knuckles OCs were being really pushed in the forefront, and I was like, no, I want to see more of Knuckles and Team Chaotic.
You don't like
I mean-
Dimitri or Mephistopheles or Archimedes or
Don't get me wrong,
No.
Knuckles' parentage is fucked up, and I never want to see it again.
Yeah.
It was stupid then and is stupid now, but I did like some of the stuff that was being built. I think
I
if I was
did
to
like some things, if I have to admit.
if I was to return to it now, though, it's just like, yeah, no, it's
Hey, Julie Sue was cool. She
Cool.
Yeah, I
like
always
the
had like a
dreads.
heart for
Yeah.
Julie Sue
It's a shame she's in limbo now.
and Linda.
And,
The
So-
Malzilla favorite.
yes.
I just like
So
sadistic women.
yeah, it's a weakness of mine. Speaking of which, I kind of threw this on the notes as a joke, but we're all Sally fans. I think Paramount is about the closest chance we'll get her back. So, who would you cast as Sally if you had a choice?
In the movie, she will never see her unless they go to a world where all these critters like Sonic exist, and she's like, zoom in, enhance. There she is in the background.
In a
I guess that's
hypothetical,
close. We're gonna get to a cameo.
Maybe she's in the bad future with Amy. We don't know.
in a hypothetical scenario, though, I don't really know who I would cast. I'm so out of touch with like actors and actresses these days that I wouldn't know who is age appropriate. Most of the people that I know are like probably too old to play the role. Although I say that, and older
And
characters
they got
are
Idris
playing-
Elba and Keanu Reeves.
Yes, Keanu Reeves is playing Rouge Shadow.
Well, Shadow's
So-
50, so
This is true. So I don't know who I would get to play, just so long as it's she does the job well.
If I had to pick, and I'm not saying I know so many celebrities, I'm trying to go for voice, just
Mhm.
strictly voice.
Mm,
I
yeah,
really liked
smart.
Rosario Dawson.
Oh, that's actually a good choice.
Yeah,
See,
I think
I was gonna-
after watching Ahsoka and just hearing her, I was like,
Mhm.
I'm just thinking like, yeah, I think she could pull off a Sally.
I was
Like a
just gonna go
modern
for a
day
cheap
Sally.
Game of Thrones joke of, Sally's one scene is her riding Dulcie, shooting fire at, egg bots and then them making, oh god, it's Daenerys. So that's why I picked Amelia Clark. So it's a cheap joke, but
Just bring in Alex Borstein. She can do her Lois Griffin voice.
oh boy.
I guess I don't know. What was her name? Colleen, help me out here. How do you pronounce her last name? Oh, something.
O'Shaughnessy?
O'Shaughnessy. Thank you. I would rather pick somebody who's like kind of not really well known,
Mhm.
who
A voice
would-
actress?
like a voice actress or somebody. I mean, somebody who's known in like the voice community. I mean,
Mhm.
relatively, because we
Yep.
already have enough celebrities doing voice casting. Thanks. I mean, it's a
Fair
double.
enough.
It's a blessing and a curse that we got like Robin Williams as like the genie back in Aladdin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then Disney screwed him over.
And Disney screwed him
Disney
over,
did
and then
yeah.
Hollywood decided, well,
And then
all
Shrek.
actors. Yeah.
Shrek.
Yeah, well, I mean, Mike Myers is fine, but then
Yeah, also
Hollywood.
was the pinnacle of where we're definitely going to do celebrity voice acting and animation.
Yeah, it's like synonymous with like, what is it? It's a movie, therefore it has to have actors in it, right? To get people to show
Mhm.
up. I'd have to really think about it, but I guess if like you held a gun to my head and you say, "Who's voicing Sally Acorn?" Go. I'm gonna have to go with ScarJo. That's it.
Hmm.
Okay.
Has the
That's
husky
a-
voice, has the attention. I mean the pull. Because people who know who that is. Because that's
Wait,
obviously
Scarlett
why
Johansson?
Scarlett Johansson. Yes.
Okay.
Is that everybody knows that
What?
name? Nobody
What?
knows ScarJo. Nobody knows that. Okay.
I never called her ScarJo. I just always called her Scarlett Johansson.
Yeah. So I feel like that would be probably if like you held a gun to my head right now. That's who I'd choose.
Mm-hmm.
Because like with Keanu and like I mean I guess you could say with Ben Schwartz, he's not too well known, but he does a perfect Sonic.
Oh, he does. He does. I would never have guessed it for him to be Sonic before the movie. Even though I did love him in Parks and Rec.
See, I didn't even know who he was. I didn't even know like who the character was, or I never watched Parks and
He's
Rec.
in a lot of things.
Yes.
Like once you know who he is, it's kind of, I don't know if you guys watch this, but Renfield with Nicholas Holt and Nicholas.
I didn't
Cage as
watch it, but I
Dracula.
know about it.
Oh yeah, I
He's
know the
in it.
movie.
He's
Yeah.
really good. Yeah, he's really good. Ben Schwartz is really good as like one of the bad guys in it. So, Ben's in a lot of things, and he's kind of like, I'm not going to put him on this level of voice acting, but I'm going to say, because this is a person who does a lot of voice acting and acting, he's kind of in that Mark Hamill, J.K. Simmons, who has the ability to like, oh, you'll see them voice act a lot, and you'll see them live action act a lot. They can actually do both really well. And I
Yeah.
think Ben is kind of in that.
Zendaya might not be a bad seller.
Actually, probably. Yeah. Though does that mean we're gonna get Timothy Chalamet as Silver?
Tom Holland.
Tom Holland Silver. Yes.
I guess we could see it.
Yeah.
I say it's a
gonna
joke, and now
retire.
it's like,
Yeah, no, it works. I know a lot of people goof on him, but I actually like Tom Holland a lot.
me
I
too.
think it also seems to be a thing that people seem to have forgotten, that actors, particularly at the peak of their career, tend to be in everything. It's how it's always been. I see a lot of people now, they're just like, "Oh, Tom Holland is everything." No, he's in movies. That's his thing. He plays characters that
an actor.
He's an
he's in characters that are his age. That's just how it is.
Mhm.
Maybe
Chris
just
Pratt is Metal Sonic.
oh God, no.
This is my biggest fear, and I know this is like Apollo cursing me with the gift of prophecy. Awkwafina is Amy. Like,
Okay.
like I've
Okay,
had people
I
say,
don't
like,
hate her. She's gotten better.
Yeah.
Like,
But
I think she's
man,
gotten
I just
better,
don't
but I've
want it
had
for some
people say,
reason.
like, she says, if that happens, I'm going to, my friend from Argentina, she says, if they cast, because she was giving me, again, she's not a huge Summer fan, but she loves Amy, and she was super pissed that Amy wasn't in 3 till I showed her, like, until she saw it. She's like, oh, Amy is in 3. So, the post credit scene, she's like, I don't want Awkwafina to play Amy. That's what she told me.
Awkwafina as an actor, because I saw her in 2 things outside of her being Awkwafina, is like, she's not.
She's actually good in Redfield. She's in it too.
Yeah, she's not annoying. She's just like, if she's playing a role that she has to ham it up, she will.
Mm-hmm.
But I wouldn't mind it if she is Amy. I just wouldn't prefer it. But it's like, if she's Amy, she's fine. She's not gonna be Awkwafina like we used to know.
I think at this point, I trust the folks making the movie to do the voice direction correctly. Whoever they're gonna get, they're going to pull somebody that they feel embodies the role, and they're clearly going to do the work. I mean, if they can make Keanu Reeves sound like a really good Shadow, then I have faith in them that they can basically do it. And so far, they've nailed it. Ben Schwartz is a great movie Sonic. Idris Elba is a perfect movie Knuckles. I mean, obviously Tails gets a win anyway because of Colleen.
Yes.
I feel like going forward, anybody that they get, they're gonna do the characters justice.
True. Oh, before we close out, I was gonna speed run through some last minute notes. Nothing that I'm gonna spend 5 minutes on, not even. Just I just made a list of it before we had the pod. But my first note. I can't believe there wasn't a pop-up store that was basically the Chaos Garden in New York or Tokyo. That I don't understand. That's like a missed opportunity.
I agree. Yeah,
that's printing money. They should have done it.
I was thinking the same thing yesterday. I agree.
Eggman iconic suits. He wore the red suit with the big white buttons on him. That was actually really cool. Him and Gerald wore the iconic Eggman suits. I kind of oh, that's really cool.
I like Gerald's lab coat version of it.
It was white. Yeah.
It kind of, it looked like the lab coat. It worked for him.
Yeah, it was like white and black. Yeah.
Revenge Guac was just a funny line.
I enjoyed it.
I want to know how many takes they got to Keanu to say, okay, here's your line. Revenge Guac.
They just record him saying revenge a bunch of times,
yeah, they just
walk a bunch of times and stitch them together.
They did it once, and they're like, "All right, that's lunch."
They basically just
did anyone else think that Super Shadow looked like a peppermint because he's got the white gold with the red highlights. He kind of has this pink peppermint look. I thought that was pretty
delicious. Good. My favorite line in the movie. Unsubscribed, blocked, and reported.
Yes, I laughed so hard and hard at that.
We haven't really talked about Agent Stone. Do we have any thoughts on
I put Agent Stone was the last part I put. It says still love Agent Stone. That's my second to last. I'll get to Agent Stone was love Agent Stone. Before we get to him, one last thing, last quote is when the movie stops Shadow looks at the screen and says, "I just love Latina Sonic."
Best part in the film.
He's watching the telenovela. It's like Gabriella isn't a prize.
No, they
They
canonize that.
won.
That is there. That is another
Yeah.
version of like a clever way to introduce that into the film. No.
Well, and also like if you look at where he lands, he's in the desert. There's cactuses.
Mhm.
Nevada, Arizona, Southern
I was
California.
wondering about
He
that.
could be
Yeah.
in Mexico. He could
Could
be.
be.
Sonic Shadow landed in Cabo, and he's just chilling.
Okay, now we can talk about Agent Stone. Still love him. Still love
Yes.
Agent Stone.
Yeah, he's great.
And Eggman made an announcement to
He
Agent
did.
Stone.
They
They
pissed
gave-
on the moon. I
They
love
gave, they gave Stone more to do in this film, and I think he really kind of like, especially that moment with Tails, where he's like Tails is just like, "Oh, we're best friends, just like you and the Doctor, right?" And Stone's like, "Yeah, that's totally like me and the Doctor, friends,
You
best of
might as well
friends."
looked up sad and they played
It was
strings, violin
so-
strings.
I love that whole sequence. Just like, and then they gave like, what's it, Stone talking to Shadow, and just like, come down with me, I've made guac, and then being rejected during. I actually personally enjoyed the montage between the two Robotniks
it. Looked
because it's
funny.
just
Same here.
it's very
Really?
silly, and the
Okay.
idea of like ending with Stone pouring out the drinks. It's like
Yeah.
it's
And
like I feel so bad for him.
I noticed before we found out it was VR.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, why is this montage look so fake?
mm-hmm.
Like the background and everything. It's like you guys couldn't afford to film in a park or something.
I'm
And
very
then and then when they revealed it's VR, I was like, okay,
Yeah.
that's clever.
I was worried originally from the trailer. I was like, "Oh, what is this Christmas sequence?" Ugh. You have this fantastic trailer, and it ends with the silliest bit of like Robotnik jumping onto like Gerald dressed as Santa, and I'm like, "Where is this movie going?" And then when you see the film and you
Yeah, the
have the
context
context
is
for it,
pretty
it's like,
funny, right?
okay, this is
Yeah.
actually legitimately great. I enjoy this. But it was just out of context. The trailer was just like, I don't know what's happening here. But no,
Yeah.
Stone in general just very, very good. Has a great arc. Nice little send off because I don't know what's going to happen with him now because he basically just says, unlike
Team
the second
Dark.
one, because he thought that everyone thought the Doctor died at the end of the second one, but Stone doesn't look like he's buying it. He's dressed as a gun in a gun outfit or whatever, and like he's kind of just like looking shifty and moves off. Whereas
Mhm.
I don't think you ever really see him. You don't know how he reconnected with the Doctor or how the Doctor survived. It just did.
I guess he
Whereas-
did find him like undercover as a gun agent.
Yeah, I think so. And then in the third one, it's like he's like no, he's like goodbye, Doctor, and he walks off. Like he seems to have accepted like
Yeah.
this. So either he's going to come back if the Doctor's alive, or that may be it for Stone. I am so glad that they have kept the running joke of the Doctor having a lackey with an S name, like
Yes.
Snively. But it's, yeah, no, I think everyone loves Lee. I think he's a great actor, and I think Stone
Mhm.
is just such a good foil to the Doctor.
Yes.
Mhm.
Not just like a one-off joke either. It's like he legitimately like they've put more work in the first one. Maybe he's there to just be dunked on by the Doctor, but like they kind of wove him into the story a lot more in the second one. The third one's just perfect.
And it's
Yeah.
nice to see the fans like reach out to like accept Stone because it's like,
Mhm.
oh, new character. I don't like you because you're not X character from the past.
Yeah,
So,
I think everyone generally loves Stone. I think it's great.
Yeah. Okay. A lot of funny jokes. Some of them are hit and miss. When they divert the laser to slice off the moon, like they're, for Jim to go, look, we did it. Look what I did. And then they see the moon cut in half. It's like, what did you do? just on a dime, like not even just going from like taking all the credit to just blaming Knuckles and Tails.
Yeah.
That was great. And
Yeah.
I liked the Pikachu joke. I'm sorry, it's
Oh, that Pikachu joke did get me when Knuckles was laughing.
Pika Pika.
It's like, okay. And Tails
you
not
all
looking
look like
amused.
Pokemon.
I think it helps when Tails is not looking amused about it.
Nah.
It makes it funnier.
Any final thoughts from you, Radrey?
Well, I kind of had a question before we were going to close everything out. What did you guys think of Amy, the Amy reveal at the end?
Oh, of course. How could I forget? I wanted to mention since I told about the crowd in the theater, like mostly millennials, but in the front there were a group of kids with their parent. And when Amy showed up, the little girl lit up. She actually stood up from her chair and said, "Amy!"
Mm-hmm.
And that was so cute. It reminded me of when I went to go see Mario, the Mario movie. And anytime Princess Peach did anything, there was this little girl in the theater who just clapped for her. Clap
That's
for
so
Princess Peach.
great.
And I love that moment. That moment. And this was like it reminded me of that same thing that happened to Mario movie. Amy showed up and the boys were like, because there was a girl and I think a couple of boys or whatever, but the boys were psyched to see Metal.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
she stood up for Amy. Like that's how excited she was to see her.
That's adorable. I love it. My wife and I were originally like not big fans of Amy back in the day, just the way that she was portrayed, but she grew on me and I really warmed up to her over the years. And I loved her portrayal in IDW, where she gets a lot more agency.
Hmm.
And I loved her in like late Archie as well. Um, but
Amy's
even
had it rough over the years.
she has, but
She has.
she's warmed up to the point where we saw the movie for the first time, and as soon as like the Metal Sonics get like taken out, my wife like she gasps, and then you see the silhouette of Amy in the sky, and my wife grabs me by the arm and she's like, "Shit, it's her!" It's just, and then she lands and she pulls back her hood, and it's just like lots of claps and lots of cheers because we love Amy
Yeah.
too. But oh my god, Metal! I'm so
I
excited for
yes,
whatever.
I'm psyched for Metal
Yeah.
Such a one
or
from one from the
Metals
games.
plural, but yeah, it's great to see him there.
Like, like all the characters have been like adapted, adjusted. But it looks like they literally just plucked Metal, except that he can do Mega Man blasters with his arm,
Yes,
which
I'm not. I'm kind of happy
shard
and
representation.
disappointed
It's shard
that he
representation.
didn't change his designs a little bit to more inclined with the movie.
Hmm.
But you know what? I'm not gonna complain.
Yeah, I guess if I was to like kind of like take something from this film, is that I love that they're looking at digging deeper into the lore, slowly getting there with the music. Could have done a little bit more, but what we got was really good.
Hmm.
Really bringing in more heart into these films. Um, and if there are areas to improve on, leading to the seriousness a little bit more. Like you did a really good job with the third one where it counted. There's a lot of great moments in here. Capitalize on that with whatever the story is next. Obviously, continue to have fun with it. These movies are good for a reason, and they're
Yeah.
clearly successful for a reason. And I trust you to know what you're doing. But
Hmm.
each movie has been an improvement overall, and I just want to see that going forward. Just heart where it counts, humor where where it's needed. Let the scenes breathe a little bit more, maybe. But just keep doing what you're doing because honestly, these movies have been so much fun. My opinion of them has only gotten better, higher with each film, and I'm just excited for whatever they do next.
Yeah, me too. That's up. That's like all I had. I read all my notes. If
10-10, same, no notes. I
Yeah.
mean,
I had to give it a letter grade, it's definitely a B plus for me. I can't give it an A. I feel like I give not because it's a movie for a younger audience or anything. I give Transformers 1 an A plus. That's
Hmm.
me. But this is definitely a B plus here. Or a solid thumbs up. A very fun movie as for a fan, especially a Sonic fan. For my God, when you said like 30 plus years, it kind of dawned on me like how long it took to get a decent Sonic movie. I say this is great. It was a great
even think
film.
about like how just how much these movies and like we've gotten 3 movies in 4 years and a
Hmm.
TV
Hmm.
show, and it has completely just adrenaline shot to the franchise.
Hmm.
Like,
I'm
you know,
drawing fan art again now because of the first film. I hadn't drawn Sonic fan art in like 10 years. I wasn't really drawing very much.
well, that's how
Um,
you and I kind of first chatted. Is like it
mhm.
was like January, February of 2020. I think you were like one of the only persons drawing Sally on, Reddit. I'm like, hey, Sally, because like
That's
everyone I'm
right.
seeing, it's like anyone who liked Archie is just a leper, and it's like, hey, there's someone like me.
Oh yeah,
who's
no, you're
old.
definitely right. I remember like when I went to my comic store back in Colorado and buying these Sonic comics. I'm like, do people read these things? It's like I feel like I was the only person because I'd frequent that place all the time. I never, I mean, if people bought them, it's because they bought them. They were in a collection or in a set, right?
Mhm.
So it's like, does anyone read this? And like I would talk about it, and like people like, because there's so many other comics out there. So
Yeah.
I would
yes,
say it was the recent, and it's funny because I haven't played Frontiers yet. I haven't played Forces. I've only been watching the movie, and I finally caught up to the comics. When I say finally,
Mhm.
because I keep reading it and I stop for months and I read it again. But the thing is that it kind of reignited some love I really do have for Sonic. I haven't drawn a
Mhm.
lot of Sonic over the years, and this year I'm like, I especially after seeing the movie, I was like, I really want to draw a bunch of
Yeah.
Sonic stuff again.
I legit don't think I would be doing flighting work for the IDW Sonic comics if it wasn't for the first film. I had
Yeah.
I'd burned out because I like I said before, I've been in the games industry for 15 years. I was getting very tired, and I was getting very kind of burnt out because I was putting all my time and effort into my job. I think it was at Bungie at the time, or somewhere, I forget now. And it was like I'm losing sight of the things that matter to me. I haven't drawn in like a decade because I've been so committed to my job. And I remember the movie came out, and it was like, oh yeah, I used to be a big Sonic fan, wasn't I? I was like for years, and I guess it almost simmered. It was always there under the surface, but it was never kind of like it hadn't been at the forefront for a very long time. And the movie came out, and I remember just looking online. I didn't even have much of a Twitter presence at the time, but I remember just poking like, what do people think about this film? And just seeing just this mountain of discussion that was happening, and from there it's just snowballed. So I honestly credit the first film a lot for just reigniting my passion for the franchise, for art in general, and being here with you guys talking about it. Honestly,
Happy to have you.
yeah.
Welcome to
Yeah.
come back anytime. I mean, again,
I
Radrey
would
and I are
like to,
about
yeah.
to.
Malzil and I would really like to have like one episode just dedicated to talking to you about getting into IDW and what that's
hmm.
like, and drawing Sonic for so long. And I mean, I think that's a conversation we should have for another day. But
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Mm-hmm.
because we did a long interview with Chauvel, which is this is where we plug our Chauvel episode.
Mhm.
Go listen to
One
that
of our
one.
best sword episodes. That's
Yeah,
by the way.
absolutely should. Chauvel is fantastic, and I love her Sally era.
Oh, thank you. And I loved your art too. And I always got
Yeah.
I was always wanting to say that when you went on board for IDW as a flatter, or just arts in general, I wanted to say congrats, but I don't think I ever did.
Oh
I
no,
don't think I ever properly did, but it's really cool to see you go through with your career, seeing it vicariously through, of course, Blue Sky and all.
I appreciate it. And honestly, I'm just happy just to see the artwork everybody puts out, regardless of whether it's official or not. And I'm so happy that there are people out there that are carrying that spirit of Archie and Saddam alive and still drawing these characters. And your Sally stuff is some of my favorites. It's very colorful. I love it.
Oh, thank you.
So, just to pivot a little bit here, Malzo, I have thoughts about this Amy stuff, but did you have something to say about it?
Um, again, it's. I'm happy she's here. I mean, I think a lot like what Dobbs was saying, that again, chalk it up to being a product of the Archie Sat AM pipeline. But again, I was always a Sally guy, and in the beginning, Amy was kind of either just a side character, like they made Mina Mongoose a love interest to Sonic before they really did Sally. I mean, did Amy and
Yeah.
Archie. So it just kind of shows like Amy's had it rough. And of course, I think Sega's partially to blame for that. But it's great. I think I've enjoyed her in IDW. Evan
Same
Stanley,
here.
she writes a
Yes,
great Amy.
absolutely. I
I
love
love the
Amy
way
Knight.
Evan writes Amy.
I also do. Yeah.
She does a really good job of you see the high energy, but you also kind of see like I liked Boom Amy. I thought Boom Amy was kind of she was still Amy, but like there were certain parts that were a little subdued, but there were also certain parts that were played. Like she was a lot more goofy, but obviously she still had affections for Sonic, and but she
Mhm.
kind of did it in kind of less exuberant ways, but still kind of funny. And
Mhm.
I feel like Amy's starting, um, the fact that between the latest Tails tube and Frontiers, where it seems like Amy's, she still obviously cares for Sonic. Sonic's her number one, but you
Mhm.
can see that she's starting to get, she wants to go out and do more stuff.
It's not
So
at
I
the
love,
expense of herself. She
yeah,
has agency, she has personality, and she has, goals for her life for herself that she wants to do. And I'm loving to see that. I honestly, I know a lot of people don't. I actually enjoyed her in Frontiers because I felt that
it's fine.
her character was exploring aspects of herself. For example, I've seen a few people be like, "Oh, Amy's not like showing love to Sonic in Frontiers like she normally does. Therefore, she's a less caring person." I disagree. The way that she shows, I forget the name of them, the little stone creatures.
The cacao or cocoa.
Yeah, the way that she was like showing like her love for them and wanting to help nurture them and like help them. Like there are multiple versions of love. There are multiple ways to express love, and Amy's doing that in Frontiers. And she's
She's a
not
very
just
empathetic person.
yes, she's not just grabbing Sonic and saying like I'm going to marry you someday. She's showing that her love isn't just some unhealthy obsession. Her love extends to every creature in her life, and
Mhm.
like even somebody she's never met, she will help them. She will do her best for them, and that's the Amy that I love. Not necessarily just the Frontiers Amy, but the Amy that is like love is a part of her character in general and not just some unhealthy one-sided obsession love.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why I'm really excited to see what they do with her in the movies because whether maybe she's been chilling out in New York this entire time. Amy with a Brooklyn accent, maybe they go in
Oh,
the
God,
little
that'd be amazing. Yeah.
like Harley Quinn, do the
Yep.
whole Harley Amy,
Yeah, they do the Harley thing. Oh, please.
Yeah.
or maybe she is from the future. So like I feel like
Her being from
movie Amy,
the
Sonic,
future
let's go
might
get
give
some
her.
water. Let's go get water out of the fountain. You got a lot of things.
Julia Louis-Dreyfus can do her
Yeah.
voice. I would love that. I do. I'm curious as the direction that they're going to take her character. My wife brought up a good point where it's like, yes, it's part of Amy's character to kind of like over the years to be kind of like a love interest for Sonic or whatever. Do we really want the fourth film to come out? You finally introduce like a woman like Sonic cast member and have them be a romance interest like for Sonic or whatever like that. Do we want to make
Yeah.
sure that we don't
I was gonna
pigeonhole
bring
her
that
into this?
up. Yes.
that's a
Yeah.
good point. I hadn't thought of that actually, but it's
I
also
was thinking that too.
it's why if they did a Shadow series or movie, if they did a Knuckles season 2, I mean, if you could have a Four Skulls Pachacamac, who's to say you can't have a Tikal alive chilling somewhere? Who says you can't bring in Rouge and hell? I mean, Tangle and Whisper are showing up everywhere now. Maybe they show up in the movies. I mean, those would definitely be like,
I would.
spot them in minutes. But
Yeah.
we definitely need a Big the Cat cameo. Like like a
I'm
2 minute
surprised it
scene
hasn't
of
happened.
just
Yeah.
like they've been trying to think of how to get big in these movies, and it's like you just need to have them be there fishing, and not even like a 30-second thing. Just have them walk and just see them there, and the
It's
fans
like
will
in
go
all the
wild.
games, you just kind of squint and you see him in the background.
They're going to be really coy with the marketing. They're going to be Jeff Fowler's going to be like, "Oh, we're going to go big for the next film. It's going to be a big movie. We're really going to have like a big time with this movie." And then Big's going to be in it.
I do love the Chow mascots. Those were kind of fun.
That was a cute way to introduce them. I think it's like, oh,
They
it's
had the
a
Knights
great
It
into
makes sense
Dreams
because
Chow.
cafe in
mascot culture
Japan.
in Japan is big. So like, yeah, it
Yeah.
totally works.
Kawaii Monster Cafe. I'm telling you, that's what they stole the idea from there.
Needed a pop-up store. They needed that.
Yeah,
But yeah, that's just my opinion.
I agree.
I don't know why they're so allergic to money.
Dang it, Sega, we want to give you our money.
Just give us
Please.
a Chow mobile game. I'm not even asking for much.
Like I'm not even like kidding. I love chili dogs. They're like my favorite food. So just make a pop up in New York. I will fly over there just to try one.
You got
Wow.
that Gamefield chili dog mix, didn't you? I saw you.
I did. It tastes absolutely foul. It
post.
tastes like salt water. You know that scene in like Disney's Hercules animated movie where like
Mhm.
Hades is like in the Well of Souls and they're all like reaching up to grab him. That's what it tastes like.
Oh God,
Ooh,
my
well, that's
blood
an image
pressure is
for you.
rising just thinking about
Wow.
I think
blood
the
pressure
best
is
chili
rising.
dog I had was, I don't know if they're open anymore, but it was a store in St. Mark's, New York, and it's called Criff Dogs.
Mm,
And it was all they specialized was chili dogs of
hell yeah.
all kinds. It was so good.
I am partial to Seattle dogs, though.
They make good good chili dogs here.
Hmm.
I have to go find some because I'm up on the north side
I'm
of
gonna have
the
to
Mallet
make my
area.
own now.
Yeah, I'm gonna
I
have
was
to make
gonna
some
say-
tomorrow.
I was gonna say that's probably the best thing to do is just make your own.
I have the Sonic cookbook. Isn't there a chili dog recipe in there? I should do that.
You're
There
a,
better be.
there is.
It'd be a missed
I
opportunity.
got when I visited Radrey in Japan earlier. I gave him the cookbook, and that's like the first thing in there is Sonic's famous chili.
Excellent.
Nice.
And Shadow had a tortillas like wrap dish.
Of course he did.
God, they really are leaning into. I just love
Like
Latinas.
he
Yeah.
had like Shadow had things. It was like a coffee dessert, and then like the ultimate like tortilla wrap thing, and it's
Yeah.
they're just rolling with it, and it's hilarious.
I don't want the bar for the Sonic movies to just be like they're not trash, but it does make me very happy that even people who are critical about the movies, and I've got my criticisms, we've talked a little bit about pacing and so on,
Mhm.
but generally, in general, I don't think there's anybody I know that dislikes these movies or thinks that they're bad or like they aren't going from strength to strength. I
That's
think
so true.
they are they are very much a success. And again, even I know a lot of people who like them who it's not the movie that they would make if they got to make a Sonic movie or that they would want, and I'm probably one of those people. But if you can accept it as an we've all talked about this. We grew up with Saturn, we grew up with Archie, we grew up with Sonic X, we grew up with like all these different versions. It is an adaptation. It is okay, absolutely okay. In fact, I think it's highly encouraged that it is its own thing. I think if
Mhm.
every property that comes out, every everything, if it's static and it's like one to what the games are, what's the point?
That is
It's like
true.
it's like comic books, how they're always very very different to each other, and they have different, even within comic books themselves, they have different versions. I think it's fresh. It means you go to the movie expecting like to see Sonic, but besides that, like I don't know what this movie is going to be about. And more than anything, the fact that it is something that can bring kids in and introduce them to all these characters. I am just very, very glad that we live in a world where these movies aren't just good, but they are. I honestly, as far as I'm concerned, I think they're great. I think they are great for the fans. I think they're great for kids. I think it is a healthy thing for the Sonic IP in general.
That was
Agreed.
one of
I
our
wish there was some.
taglines.
I'm into other franchises. I wish kind of adapts. Wish would adapt the same principle. It's like let just separate things be its own thing.
Mm-hmm.
Not everything has to connect like a Marvel MCU.
Infidelity.
Yeah, that's one of our sad AM jokes, but that was one of our taglines for when we did our review of movie 1 is that it might not have been the movie Sonic fans wanted, but it was very much the movie Sonic fans needed,
Mm-hmm.
because now that
Absolutely.
we've hit these 3 movies, all commercially successful, all, I mean, Rotten Tomatoes, I mean, given, you can, how much you want to give credit to, the rankings, it's an 86% from the critics, so it's certified fresh. It's 96 certified from fans. I think it was at 99 at one point, but, more,
It happens.
reviews, the aggregate. But, I said this on because I'm kind of a movie buff myself. Like I post on some other movie forums, and I said like of the last 10 years of franchise that is like technically just 3 movies, this Sonic trilogy might be legitimately the best movie trilogy we've had in 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah, since what, Planet of the Apes?
yeah. And here's the one thing is like,
Yeah.
if I look at these trilogies, there's always one movie that maybe not as good as the other. Like, these are either the opinion is they've gotten better or they're all like good. Like
Mm-hmm.
the Venom movies, those were up and down. Fantastic Beasts were up and down. I mean, then you got like some of like I love the John Wick movies, but the third one is just kind of spinning its wheels.
Hmm.
And but yeah, then you look at some of the other franchises, like say like the MonsterVerse. That's been kind of depending on the person up and down. But like
Mm-hmm.
these Sonic movies, yeah, they're the franchise continue it. If it ended with Sonic 3, you have arguably maybe. I mean, I'm not gonna say it's in the top 5 trilogies of all time, but this is three really good
Solid
movies.
movies in a row.
Mm-hmm.
All fans liked it, critics liked it. They made money considering their budgets. I mean, not to obviously the big thing the last couple of weeks has been Sonic versus Mufasa, but you're looking at like Disney has pumped like $200 million plus into making that film, and it's doing well on the international market because they released they had a global release, but you know it's been 30 to 40 million dollars. I think it's 20 now because so it's beaten Sonic on a couple day on both Christmas and New Year's Day.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like Sonic only 3 had like $125 million budget.
Yeah.
Quite frankly, I think the movie needed about 10 to 15 minutes more
Mm-hmm.
just to kind of like
Yeah.
pad a couple scenes. Like I
Yeah.
would have loved like 2 to 3 more minutes. These are my final thoughts. So
Yeah.
I think we've all rambled a lot. Give us a couple more flashback
We did
scenes.
not ramble. We eloquently chimed, our martini
You are
glasses.
right, Radrey.
We only chime in this
pontificated at the
podcast.
highest degree.
Yeah.
Give us some more scenes in the past with like Maria, Gerald, and Shadow to build up that dynamic. I would say give us another minute or two of exposition from Walters in the Chow Garden about Shadows. Like his name is Shadow, kind of as opposed to I'm so glad you survived Shadow. It's like you're talking to them like they know his name. They don't know his name. If they could have given us a little bit more, like a minute or two more of Super Sonic versus Super Shadow and the Hedgehogs versus the Gunbots in space, which is pretty decent substitute for the Biolizard. I'm not gonna lie. It in many ways kind of was better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit more of Sonic music.
I agree. More music.
It was
Same.
great to hear the Eggman theme as the ringtone, but
Yes.
we need these more than just ringtones.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
though they did a good job with Live and Learn as integrating it into character motifs and
Clap seals.
plot feels and
No, clap seals. That's what I kind of felt as a little.
yeah, exactly.
I
Clap
understand.
seals. Yeah, but
Okay.
I will say oh, so you go.
I was gonna say I think they heard enough back about they heard enough flack about the wedding scene for 2, so
Yes.
as things tend to do, they tend to overcorrect a little much.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, like I said, 10 to 15 minutes more to pad a couple scenes here or there. Again, Cecily, add a little bit more of of the past of because Walters was trying to stop them from shooting them. Like obviously, he got along with them well enough as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I really wonder if there's a director's cut.
Yeah.
Like I know most directors don't, but like Jeff Fowler, give us the director's cut in Blu-ray. I will pay the money. Like give me the 2.5 hour cut of this film.
The Steiner cut of the Sonic film.
Yeah.
The Fowler cut. Give us the Fowler.
I just want to say how incredible it was to see. I mean, they got the rage right to see how fast that Hedgehog was to punch an 80-year-old man in the stomach and potentially kill him. Like he was
Yeah,
like he
you're
didn't hold
right.
back. He saw Walters and he was going for the kill. Like he just punched the
He
shit out of him with his like chaos ability. And that man was like, for all intents and purposes, to him, dead. And then it's like,
And
I'm
then
like,
the hologram went away. He's like, "Oh, I might
yep,
have made a mistake."
I did a boo boo. But
Oh, whoops.
I
Killed
want
the
to.
wrong guy.
I will say, like, just one of my last parting thoughts is that I think that what they're doing with these movies is probably, I don't want to say it's the hardest job in the world because obviously it's not. It's the film industry, but as far as films go, they have a very very difficult job because they have to deal with. I mean, probably the easiest aspect of it is pleasing people who are new because it's they can go in and it's going to be a blank slate for them, but they've got 30 plus years of Sonic fandoms to reach out to. The Sonic
Mhm.
fandom, as I've always said, is as wide as it is tall. It is. There's been so many different iterations over so many decades, and even within each niche, you've got sub niches of fans, like fans who like Archie, early Archie, fans who like the late Archie, fans who only like Saturn, fans who only like Sonic X, fans who like the Adventure One but don't like Adventure Two. You've got so many aspects of the fandom to appeal to, and the fact that
We
they've
are the
managed to.
definition of the Ghidorah meme, where you got the two heads, and then you have the kooky head to the left, but we're almost all the kooky head.
Basically, yeah. And we are very vocal, for better or worse. I will say I don't like the fact that people tend to like be like, "Oh yeah, we bullied Sonic's design." Those poor animators got thrown under the bus, and I feel like they probably suffered to get Sonic's design right in the first
Yeah.
film. I don't approve of that. I don't think bullying is the right word, and it should never be like bullying works. These are real people. They have jobs. They have lives. They probably had to do a lot of overtime, and then all probably lost their jobs at the end of it.
Oh, they did.
Mhm.
So it's like, and as somebody who's in the games industry and I've lost my job to layoffs multiple times because of how greed works, and with executives basically kicking people out just so they can, save some pennies. I know how much that hurts. Um, However, I am very, very glad that they care about this franchise, that they do listen, and that each movie has gone from strength to strength, and that they have managed to somehow make a cohesive package that, even if it might not be everybody's cup of tea, in general, is. I mean, you just have to look on YouTube to see what people's responses are to these movies, and they are glowing, or they're at least, in the very least, very positive, and they have nice things to say about everything that's coming out of these films. They
Mhm.
have a very difficult job, and they're just doing from strength to strength. And I don't know if they're going to watch, if they ever listen to this podcast. If they do, thank you for the work you're doing. Please just keep doing it.
Imagine 2024 Jeff Fowler going back to 2025 Jeff Fowler, who was working on the Shadow 05 cinematics. It's like, hey, in
Yeah.
20 years, we're gonna be the #1 movie in America with this hedgehog. So,
The one with the
he
gun?
probably, huh?
I was just imagine him saying the one with the gun.
Well, yeah, it's like so. Yeah, it's like he's animating, the infamous, cocking the gun scene. It's like, yeah, in 20 years, this is gonna be the hottest thing in cinema. And yeah, but hats off to Jeff. That's such a crazy,
Mhm.
like,
Mhm.
come full circle moment, and I'm
Yeah.
so happy for him.
Now put Sally in the movies, you cowards.
But
Yes.
so,
Hey, they're gonna make an animated cartoon. Maybe put her in
Mhm.
there, a cameo.
unfortunately, I have that'd be in a whole nother podcast. But
Ooh.
Yeah.
Paramount does seem to be they did grab Prime from Netflix, so
Mhm.
they seem to be realizing that Sonic is there because they've obviously lost Transformers because Hasbro's being dumb, not gonna
Mhm.
help fund things. Though Paramount's got enough money to fund it itself, but I think they realize they want to get as much control of what Sonic they can because they
Mhm.
know this
Mhm.
is gonna be their
Hot
golden boot.
IP.
Yeah.
I think my biggest thing, like maybe Sally will eventually come back, is that they got the Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog Robotnik Face in the DLC. That's not
That's
even just
true.
that's not even just like the movie. That is literally the game. That is Sonic Team using Western media right there, using the old Robotnik Face of all things.
You
I
love
mean,
to see it.
Do
and the
more of that,
cafe
please.
was the mean bean.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
We can dream.
We can
Mhm.
dream. But I think we've definitely gone on long. I mean, obviously, it's past midnight for Chauvel, and
Oh yeah.
I don't know what time in the afternoon it is for Radrey. So, Radrey, final
It's almost
thoughts.
3 p.m.
Wrap
No.
this up and bring us out of here.
Okay. I was just gonna finish up with the Amy stuff. I mean, no, because it's funny because I asked my girlfriend about the what she thought of the Sonic 3 movie, and she said the best part was the Amy reveal. I'm like, really? That wasn't even a big part of it. I mean, she roughly enjoyed it. I mean, I guess, and I enjoyed it enough. I mean, I give it the letter grade a C plus. I mean, I enjoy it. I mean, not to be a downer.
Yeah.
I mean, it was
No.
good. I enjoyed it. I'm glad it's leading to other things. There were things that kind of made me feel like I was. I feel a little out of place being a Sonic fan, because I don't know how to best describe this without being derogatory. So I'll save it for another day. I mean, I don't know. It feels a little weird, like being an adult and liking this franchise. But I mean, obviously, good people like yourselves, like we're obviously fans of this. So
I think I'm the oldest one here.
yeah, well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, who knows in the next 10
It's
years?
okay to like Sonic in your
The
mid
world,
30s to early 40s.
the world
It's
is
not
a
weird.
dark, unhealthy, like unhappy place. Just like what you like, and if it brings you happiness, that's all that matters.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, I mean, this is the conversation Melzil and I will probably have in a later day. I'm beating around the bush here, but I don't want to get too gross. So, hints for anybody who knows what I'm talking about. Be sure to like and subscribe, and
Well,
and follow
speaking
us
of
to
that,
see.
that's a good.
Yes.
I was gonna say, obviously, Chauvel, Dobbs, plug your social medias. How can people find you?
Dobbs go first. I've had a podcast before, so
Oh, I am mostly around on Blue Sky, to be honest with you. You can find me at hang on, what is my name? Jon Dobbs Art. There is no H in my name, so it's just Jon Dobbs Art, and then whatever the Blue Sky rest of it is. You can find me pretty easily. I'm not on Twitter anymore because that place can suck eggs. That's pretty much it. If there's, I'm on Discord too, but if we become friends, and I'll let you then later on. But yeah, just Blue Sky for now.
All right, so I'm gonna plug my socials. I'm also on Blue Sky, mostly on Blue Sky, under Chauvel, Chauvel on Blue Sky. I'm also on Twitter, but with an S, Chauvel. The reason being, but I mostly post and bounce. I stick around for a little bit to read replies to my art, and then I'm kind of away for hours, if not days. So, but if you want to interact with me, try Blue Sky. It's better for now. Maybe in 10 years it'll go the
Yeah.
way of Twitter, but we have a good 10 years to just chill. And that's about it. I have other accounts, but that's not about this podcast is about. So let's stick to those.
Yeah. If you made it this far, yeah.
Yeah.
Be sure to follow our lovely guests who were who happen to be here and sit with us and talk about this movie. To get some different some different opinions out there. To know that we're not alone. That there are a bunch of people out there. Thanks to the miracle of the internet, we're able to connect and talk about this great franchise. So and what it means to us.
And to the coasters, obviously, feel free to follow us on both Twitter and Blue Sky. Again, feel free to join our Discord. We love having people to talk to. We will be resuming our Sad AM reviews. We're hitting season 2. So, we've...
Woo! A season I can hardly remember, but just the end. But I'll still be tuning in.
It's a good ending. It was the best of times. It was the cliffhanger of times.
I need to pitch in these more. I miss Saddam. I really do.
Like I said,
that's what we need to call it. Saddam. I like that.
Oh yeah, I guess you guys call it Sad AM or something. I don't know. I always call it Saddam ever since a kid, so I just stuck with it.
Works for me.
It was always just the Sonic cartoon that appeared on the weekends for me for the longest time.
Or as my friend used to
got it.
We used to call it the serious one.
Oh yeah, no, that too actually.
Well, like I said, as we've said, Chauvel, Dobbs, anytime you want to come on, let us know if you want to join us for one of the Sad AM reviews. more than welcome to. I think we're gonna hit Sonic X after that because it's been decades since I've seen it, and we kind of wanted to revisit it because it's loved by a lot of fans, and you know we'll deal with Chris Thorndike when we get to him. But from all of us here at the Sonic Coast to Coast podcast, thank you for sitting down with us for about 2.5, 3 hours as we pontificate and ramble on about a really good movie that we all enjoyed. So we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, thank you very
Bye.
much for having me.
Thank you for having me
No
too.
problem. Like I said, it was our pleasure.
So what are we ending on? What's our audio quote we're ending on?
Well, we already did later haters, so
Revenge guac?
Revenge walk.
Revenge Walk.
We'll make guac. Revenge guac.